Okay, welcome to what I hope will be the first in a long series of sessions of the Undying Lands, an OSR game using the Swords and Wizardry fantastic medieval adventure game rules, based around the idea that this world has two large continents on it, the Barren Lands, which is highly populated and where most of the player characters will have come from, and the Undying Lands, previously cut off from the rest of the world. There is a single land bridge that links the two of them together, a very mountainous region with only a single pass through it. Until recently, this was cut off by ice flows and inclement weather, meaning that no one could cross over the land bridge. Recently the ice has retreated, and that has led to a sort of gold rush, if you will, of people heading to the Undying Lands. Given that a lot of people have moved there, they have built the first of what may be a number of fortresses. This one is called Fort Endeavour, as you can see from the map, and that is where our players will be striking out from. It's like a combination of a sort of Old West trading post, if you will. Most of the merchants who live there want to profit from the wealth of the Undying Lands, this new virgin continent that has been opened up to them now. However, they're not terribly keen on facing the dangers and unknown perils of said continent. So they've struck on the brilliant idea that they're going to offer incentives and very high rewards for those who are brave enough to venture into and explore the Undying Lands. And that is where our players will come in. They are a group of adventurers who have banded together and are going to set out to explore the Undying Lands. So without further ado, I'll get them to introduce themselves and just say a little bit about their characters. So first of all, we have Carol.
Hi. I'm Carol. I'm playing Cassandra Kem. She's a bard. She's come over the land bridge with the idea of chronicling all these great new explorations and probably getting a little gold for herself as she does so.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So now we move on to Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm playing Edinburgh. She's a thief, and she's there to play make some money and then go and retire somewhere, preferably out of the way.
Lovely, thank you very much. And next we have Ian F. White.
Thank you very much, John. Hi, I'm Ian, and this evening I will be playing Dane Westry, my apologies, can't remember his name. He's a mercenary type fighter who's hoping to find fame and fortune in the Undying Lands. Thing about him, he's as ugly as sin.
Good to know, thank you very much. And next we move on to Rob.
Rob the Swamper. I'll be playing Hagar the Black. Hagar, a dwarf. Hagar's very bitter. He resents the rich and what their wealth allows them, and he wants some of that for himself. He's sick of them having it.
Thank you very much. And last but by no means least, we have Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean. I will be playing Graf, a cleric. He is a very simple man. Doesn't look like he understands much, namely the concept of a bath at all. But carrying around with him, he has probably the only things he looked after are a shell around his neck and a book beside him, which appear to have the symbols of the law upon them.
Okay, splendid. Thank you very much. So before we set off, you will have all met up in Fort Endeavour, as I described in the start of the preamble. It's effectively like a combination of a medieval town and sort of like a Wild West sort of boom town. At the moment, hundreds of people are flocking there, all eager to get their piece of the Undying Lands. There have been a few sort of sparse attempts to send small groups or individuals out into the Undying Lands. However, very few of them have returned. You guys here are the first concerted effort of a proficient group of people to actually strike out into the Undying Lands, banding together for obviously safety in numbers, and you all have different areas of expertise, since whilst out in the Undying Lands, you'll be forced to rely on trail rations, or you'll have to forage for your food. It's a harsh and often unforgiving environment. So, although Fort Endeavour is not the focus of this game, before we start, does anyone have any additional equipment or anything that they wish to buy? Normal equipment, as in the lists in the book, is freely available in Fort Endeavour. There are merchants galore there lining the streets, all eager to sell their wares to adventurers heading out into the Undying Lands, hoping perhaps that when you return to Fort Endeavour, if they've cut you a good deal on some equipment that's helped you, maybe you'll think of them first when you come back groaning with all this loot you've acquired in the Undying Lands. So, is there any equipment or anything like that that people wish to purchase?
I'm already prepared. Let's get going.
Okay.
I'll probably pick up another 5 days rations and a second water skin.
That's
just to be
fine.
safe.
That's absolutely fine. Just deduct that the requisite amount of money from your character sheet, and you can have acquired that. That's not a problem at all.
Raph will probably
Okay,
forget
Raph.
his skin.
And I will probably add rations and another water skin as well.
Okay, no problems. Feel free to add any equipment and deduct the appropriate amount of cash from your character sheets. Okay, so as you set out from the large, sort of imposing stone fortress and small sort of like shanty town that's grown up around it, Fort Endeavour, you can see stretching out ahead is a rolling grassy plain. To the north and the south of Fort Endeavour, and I will bring up the map now so you can see what I'm talking about. You know that there is the forbidding mountain range that pretty much bars entry to the Undying Lands to the vast majority of people. Certainly anyone who wanted to go across the mountains without going through Fort Endeavour and through the pass would have a great deal of difficulty. You know that to the northwest is a rolling bank of hills, and likewise to the south is a range of small hills. So it's down to you guys to decide where you want to go from here.
Do we have any knowledge at all, other than the geology? What might be there?
Okay, you know that to the south is a large coniferous forest, and to the north you have heard rumours that there is likewise a band of forest that joins together with that. However, to the north, from the descriptions you have heard, the forest appears to be largely dead or petrified. However, as you're asking around, you are offered a map that pertains to a tomb of a long-forgotten chieftain who once ruled the lands to the north where the petrified wood is now located.
If he was a chief, he'll have coin. Let's go there.
The shifty merchant who's offering you this map, he says, well, yeah, this is a map to Chief Thangar's barrow mound. Bound to be a lot of loot in there. You know what it's like when they bury these chiefs with bury them with all the grave goods and that. And you can see a greedy gleam in his eye as he offers you the map.
This map better be accurate, or I'll be back with my axe.
Okay, and just for the benefit of people watching, I'm going to go into the mechanics of this in a little more detail than I might do later on. Basically, how much money you give for the map will determine the accuracy of it. 5 gold pieces gets you a poor quality map, 10 gets you a medium, 20 gets you a good, and 50 gets you an excellent map. And that affects the chances of it being accurate.
50 gold for a great map? That's like more than a suit of armor.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, it's way more than I have.
Perhaps we should just explore. Maybe we
Yes.
can find our own treasure and adventure and buy maps later when we have more money.
Yes.
I'm in it for the story anyway. I'd love to see the petrified forest.
Well, I'm here for the gold, and I won't be giving it away for a map. It's way overpriced. I'm going to storm out, slamming the door.
Okay.
Cassandra's going to chuckle and follow him.
Okay, no problem. So you guys are heading out of Fort Endeavour. Which direction do you plan to strike out in?
Towards that petrified forest. Maybe we can find the tomb on our own.
Okay, so you're heading northwards originally. So first of all, you'll be moving to the west to head to the plains, because obviously the mountains are almost impassable. So I'm going to move you along.
Well, yeah, we know it's to the northwest, so we can follow the mountains to have a pretty good idea we're going northwest. Like, we have that kind of guide.
Indeed you do. Okay, so as you're travelling on the first day, you head to the west into rolling plains. It'll take you, each hex takes you a day to cover. So can each of you deduct a single point's worth of rations from your sheet? Obviously you have to eat, etc. as you're travelling. I'm assuming that you're being fairly frugal with your rations, etc. Okay.
Yes, but I will look for places like, if we're traveling a whole day through plains, it's likely we'll cross streams.
Indeed.
So I'm going to look for places where we can at least keep my water skin topped up.
Yep, that is absolutely fine. There is enough water about. As I said, the streams, small pools, etc. on the plains. So as you move, you have no problems with water. If you wanted to find food, like you didn't want to use your rations, you'd have to make a roll to forage for that, which would be affected by the terrain. But I'm assuming since you've only just set out, you've all got a reasonable amount of rations.
What I would go ahead and forage. What do you actually have to? What do you roll?
Okay, so you roll a d6, and you need to get either a 1 or a 2 on the d6. And if you do, that means you've found enough food for the day that you don't have to use your rations.
Well, she rolled a 5, so she looks around as they're traveling, but she's a little too busy traveling to actually find anything.
Indeed, just so. Okay, so as you set up camp for the day, etc. So as you're moving, the way this works is I roll 2d6, and I roll 1 to see if you get an encounter and 1 to see if you get lost in the terrain. Since you're not moving with the aid of a map, you're just sort of exploring as you go.
50 fucking gold? Yeah. Or 10, even 10 gold was a shit map, so yeah.
Okay, so your first day of travel, you don't get lost. Not surprising. You're keeping Port Endeavour in sight. You're moving across these plains. It's pretty flat, apart from the odd gently rolling hillock here and there. The sun is shining, although it's a little bit cold here, since obviously you're still sort of just to the south of the ice that has retreated. So it's a little bit chilly. Most sort of scrubs and woodlands you find here will be coniferous, but other than that, your day's travel is fairly uneventful. So I'm going to reveal the areas around your map now, so that you can see sort of a little bit more of the map. Okay, as you're moving along on the second day, having camped peacefully, you can see that the unbroken, sort of gently rolling ground in front of you, you start to see a few more trees, copses of trees, etc. dotted about. And as you move, you can see sort of to the south, these trees get thicker into what appears to be a dark coniferous forest. It appears to also continue up to the north. However, as the trees go north, you first of all notice what appear to be tree stumps and dead vegetation. And as they continue north, you can see these petrified, blackened trees like gnarled, arthritic hands reaching up into the sky. You can't hear any sound of bird song or natural noises from the north. What do you want to do?
Those are scary pet trees.
If you're scared already, you shouldn't be here.
Those aren't pets. He said they were pet trees.
Petrified.
I think he meant petrified, yes.
I don't know what that means.
It means that
That
they've
means-
turned to stone, basically.
Stones aren't trees.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Never mind.
Trees that are so old, they've turned into stone over the many, many, many years.
Oh.
They are kind of crazy looking, though, aren't they?
Now, Cassandra, you would know, being a sort of bard and knowledgeable in such things, that although it's not uncommon to see the odd, like petrified tree, maybe it's been struck by lightning or something similar, seeing like a whole forest of them is extremely unusual.
Yes. This is very rare and unusual, I must say, and I'm anxious to go see what's going on in there.
Good. Anxious is the right frame of mind to be in. We can't be being afeared already. Let's get moving.
Okay,
Wait, wait, off.
so which direction are you guys planning on heading in?
I'm going to suggest we go due west, at least from there. Possibly to maybe search for game. There might be game in the forest before we get to the dead forest.
Yes, fresh food. Save the rations. Sounds good to me.
Okay, no problems. I will move you to the west. I'm just going to make a roll to see whether you get lost while you're travelling. You're absolutely grand. So, you guys move off to the west.
Yeah, and I'm going to do some hunting while I'm there. Rabbits, deer,
That is
boar.
absolutely fine. It's slightly easier to find food in a forest, as you rightly say. Certainly in these copses, before you get to the petrified forest, you can hear the sound of birds tweeting. You maybe spot a few rabbits, hares, etc. moving around. So if you want to forage for food, you'll need to
D6?
roll a d6, and you need to get a 1, 2, or a 3.
Nope. 5 again.
Okay.
Fuck.
Despite the abundance of food in the area, your attempts to catch it are somewhat less than successful. So anyone who is not foraging, you'll have to mark off another ration on your character sheet as you travel for another day to reach these copses of trees. Just beyond them to the west, you can see the trees start to become these blackened, stony, dead trees. And to the sort of southwest of you, you can see the far more healthy looking coniferous forest. However, as you're looking at the coniferous forest to the south, you can't help but notice there appear to be a large amount of webs tangled up in the branches of the trees to the southwest.
Are we close enough to see what the divide is like between the petrified trees and the healthy ones? Is it a sudden divide or is it gradual?
You are close enough. It's fairly gradual. You notice, however, that the sort of webs that you're seeing that seem to cover most of this coniferous forest to the south, so catching the morning dew and glistening in the sunlight, they appear to stop some distance short of the dead forest. But the border between the two is fairly gradual.
How big are the webs?
Difficult to tell, since it just looks like almost as though the whole sort of forest is entangled in these webs. Almost as though someone had just laid a giant, gauzy, silken sheet over the forest to the south.
Right. The webs are just in the living trees to the south. They're not in the dead.
Indeed, as I say, they seem to stop some distance short of the dead forest and they don't go into it.
Spiders have no money. Let's see if we can find that tome.
I don't so much care for spiders myself. What about you, Ember?
Depends on the size of the spider.
Well, they're no good for eating, and they sometimes come poisonous.
Yeah, but there might be something worth looking at.
Okay, so
Yeah, there might be. But we know there's something in that dead forest to find.
Well, we know he tried to sell us a map for it, but I must admit it's very intriguing.
And we only know it's a starting point.
Okay, so you guys make camp for the night below this small copse of trees. You've all eaten your rations, made a campfire with all due precautions, set up watches, etc. The night passes without undue interference. However, I'm assuming you're all going to take sort of turns at watch, just be on the safe side, make sure no one's overstrained, etc. So, during the evening, Hagar, as you're on your watch, you think you catch sight of movement from just within the bounds of the dead forest to the northwest of you. You can't be sure, but for a few brief moments in the flickering of your dying campfire, you think you see a figure moving behind the trees.
About how far away?
Well, the border of the forest is like sort of like a day away. Luckily, the ground's sort of like fairly flat here. But like I say, that's why you're not really certain about what you've seen. But you just catch a glimpse of movement and like sort of a silhouette moving.
Way in the distance.
Yeah, way in the distance. It's not like something that's going to suddenly like leap out of the forest and like rush you guys. So you're not sort of like, oh, we need to be at battle stations immediately. But given that you've seen virtually no movement in the dead forest, and you can hear no sound of birds or animals from that area, it draws your attention, the sudden like cracking of dried branches as you see something moving. From this distance, it looks like a sort of the shadow of a humanoid style figure, about sort of average sort of 5'4" sort of height, you think, but difficult to tell again because of the darkness. To be honest, you probably only spotted it due to the fact you're a dwarf and you're used to being able to sort of like look for things in the dark.
Okay, so I'm not waking my companions over that. It's a long ways away anyway. If it comes closer, I'll have time to wake them. But I am going to stoke the fire, make sure it's going well. So if anything approaches, we'll have light, and this thing might be a fear fire. I don't know.
Okay.
And I'll keep an eye in that direction for the rest of my shift.
Okay, no problems. You all awake the next morning. You're getting your preparations underway, stowing your stuff in your backpack, make sure the campfire's out, getting ready to travel effectively. Do you mention what you've seen to your comrades, Hagar, or?
No. On a meta level, I know it might be a good idea, but this guy wouldn't.
That's
just
absolutely
jump in
fine.
Shadows at this point.
Okay, no problems. So, which direction are you guys planning on heading out in? You can either head to the northwest or the west, and that will take you into the boundaries of the dead forest. Or you could go, if you choose to forsake that, you could go to the southwest and go into the coniferous forest. But as you say, spiders don't have any money.
Let's stick to the plan. That dead forest isn't too far.
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay. So, do you guys want to head west or northwest? If you
northwest.
Northwest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Northwest.
No problems. So I'm going to ask: can each of you again deduct a ration, unless there's any of you who want to forage? Now you're pretty sure that it's going to be very difficult to forage, given that you've seen like no animals or any signs of anything like that in the dead.
I got nothing to lose though. So.
Right. Same here.
Okay. Make me a D6 roll. If you're foraging, you need to get a 1.
Nah.
No. This time I get a 3, right? When it's no longer useful.
That's correct. Okay, so you all have to deduct 1 ration from your character sheet as you're travelling. How are you all doing for your levels of rations anyway, since obviously I didn't track what you guys have purchased?
I'm okay for a couple of days, I think.
I'm down to 3.
Okay,
I've got some. I'm okay for a while.
Graph's sitting pretty solid. He'll start handing them out if if people start getting too low.
Okay, no problems. So you all spend a day travelling and you enter the boundaries of a dead forest. Like I say, all of the trees are blackened and show no signs of recent growth on them. As you enter, it's almost as though a wall of silence falls around you. The sound of birds becomes a distant memory, and all that you can hear is the dry crack of fallen branches and twigs as you walk through this dead forest.
Do we see any trees that are actually turned to stone at this point yet?
As you're looking at them, Cassandra, you can see they, unlike your first opinion, they don't appear to actually be petrified and actually turned to stone. It's just that all of the trees around here appear to be dead and slowly rotting from the insides. As you're moving, you come across numerous trees that have fallen, logs lying across your path, etc., which they just seem to have rotted away, and without a stable root base, they've toppled to the ground.
Can she use her lore to examine them to learn anything more about them, or
You certainly can.
is that how that works?
Make a lore roll.
Yeah, what the
Oh,
hell
no.
do that?
She didn't learn anything with that roll.
Okay.
They're dying trees.
Obviously, your lore is a sort of shortcut to see if you can find anything out. Obviously, you can feel free to sort of examine them by describing how you're examining them, and you can still do that. The lore is just like an additional shortcut. Like if you couldn't think of a way to do it, you just, just make a lore roll.
So yeah, she looks at the trees and looks at the rotting from the inside and kind of examines like pulls one open, maybe cuts it up with her knife to get into it, or so, and just takes a look to see what's going on inside it.
Okay, you take out your knife, and as you cut into the tree, you know that normally if you cut into a fresh, healthy, growing tree, there would be like sap leaking out of it. You would find greener wood underneath, etc. However, as you cut into these trees, they seem to almost like crumble away as you're cutting them, as though there's sort of no moisture left in the trees, as all the vitality had been sucked out of them. The bark crumbles away beneath your blade, just to reveal more dead wood underneath. You don't even see the tracks of like termites and normal insects you would expect to find inside a tree. It's as though something has just like sucked all the life out of these trees.
She kind of calls people over. Look at this. This is just very, very bizarre.
So I'd like to look around at the trees. Basically what I'm trying to determine is, are they all about the same age, or are some 80 and some 40 and yet they're all dead? You know what I mean?
They all appear to be about the same age. They all appear to be like very old.
Okay.
You suspect from what you've seen, Hargar, that like, there's been no new growth in this forest for quite some considerable years.
Things die. No fresh seeds here means no growth. I'm going to kick at the soil. Does it look to me like it might be viable? Like if someone were to plant a seed here, does it look like there's enough soil and stuff that it could take, or this is all just
you kick at the soil?
Chaff?
Yeah, you kick at the soil and it sort of kicks up. The soil is almost like dust or sand or perhaps even ash. It doesn't. It's dusty. It doesn't sort of hold together. It's like something has like sucked all of the nutrients out of the soil. You suspect that if like you planted anything here, it would just fail to germinate. It would not grow at all.
There's your answer. Nothing will grow here.
However, as you're kicking the soil about, you suddenly feel your boot come into contact with something just below a pile of this dusty soil, and you hear a slight crunching sound.
Probably a treasure chest. I will, using my axe, I'm going to kind of like clear it away.
Okay, you clear it away and you find what appeared to be a jumble of human-looking bones, bleached white and with a little bit of sort of frost clinging to them. Your foot appears to have made contact with the skull and has sort of like chipped a large chunk of bone off the side of the skull.
Lots of death here.
Yeah, no fancy walking.
Is there anything... the bones look pretty old, bleached white. Is there anything besides bone, any bits of cloth, metal, things like that?
Okay, as you pull these bones out and you clear the soil away carefully, you can see that it actually appears to be an entire human skeleton. The thing that strikes you most about it is it looks as though it's almost been buried. The knees are pulled up into the chest with the arms wrapped around the knees as though they were sort of in repose. As you're looking at the bones, you can see what appears to be a leather-thonged necklace resting in the rib cage, and what appears to be a flat golden disc attached to the leather braid around their neck.
Okay, so I'm going to reverse my axe so I have the fat end, smash away some of the ribs to make a nice easy hole to reach into, and then do that.
Okay, there is a loud crunching which echoes eerily around the bounds of the otherwise silent dead forest as you crunch your way through these bones. You reach in and you take out this braided leather thong with this flat gold disc. It appears to have some strange symbols on it which aren't a language you're familiar with. It also appears to have a...
I'm going to show it around. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It also appears to have what looks like a very crude but stylized representation of a human figure on it, holding two swords above its head, but it's also been worn away by time, and the detail is somewhat lacking. It looks quite crude, especially considering that you're a dwarf. You know good craftsmanship. This is extremely crude.
I'm going to show it around to my companions. Anyone recognize this? Mean anything to any of you?
This would be a case where Cassandra would want to roll her lore again to see if she learns anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's times I'd like to be rolling 6s every roll, but this is not one of them.
Okay, the only thing you can really get from it, Cassandra, it doesn't spark any particular stories or legends in your mind, but given that this figure with the two swords is depicted sort of prominently in the center of it, perhaps this was someone of importance, or maybe they worked for someone of importance or maybe it's even depicting a deity or perhaps an ancestor on the talk. It's difficult for you to tell.
Could we dig around a little bit further, see if there's any weapons in this grave?
It's just a one skeleton too, right, John?
It's just the one skeleton you've found, yeah. Dane, you start digging around, sort of like around the area, see if there's anything else. And after maybe 2-3 minutes of digging, you discover what appears to be another body in a similar sort of crouched, sort of hunched up fashion, buried under this dusty, ashy soil nearby.
There's another one.
This one doesn't appear to have like the decoration that the talk like the other one. However, it is holding a sort of pitted, now slightly rusted sword that appears to have been. That's now resting on its rib cage. You suspect it may have been buried with the sword.
Can I tell what might be been killed this person? Like, is her skull caved in, limb hacked off?
As you look at the skeleton, you can see that there's actually a sort of like a puncture mark in its skull, which, having had combat experience yourself, you think was probably made by an arrow or maybe a crossbow bolt, some sort of projectile. It looks as though the death wound on this person was they were like shot in the head with something.
I'll tell you what, I would like then to fish around for the arrowhead in the hopes that might lead me to conclude or figure out who shot him.
Okay, you search around in the ash and the soil of this place. It takes you maybe half an hour, but eventually you do find what appears to be a small bronze arrowhead.
Anyone know who uses these kinds of arrows? They're not dwarven.
Oh, I'm not from around here.
Obviously, you would all know that bronze tends not really to be used for weapons overly much nowadays back where you're from, but it certainly was like many, many years ago.
I wonder if this is that dead hero. The tomb we could have purchased a map to. Doesn't look like much of a tomb to me.
Not yet,
Maybe.
no.
Bones seem awful old, though.
Graf looks really uncomfortable with everything around. He'll just open up his prayer book, start walking around, reading last rites for anything that might be in the ground at this point.
Okay, you start intoning last rites reading from your prayer book. Obviously, you're engrossed in doing that. The rest of you, however, as Graf starts walking around reading these prayers out, you notice a short distance ahead of you, the soil starts to move and shift as though something is moving beneath it.
Heads up.
Maybe that's not a good idea.
And as you say, maybe that's not a good idea, and Hargar shouts, heads up, you see a skeletal hand burst out of the ashen soil. And as you watch...
How far away?
About sort of 40 feet away from you.
Told you that was a bad idea.
As you watch, you can see what appear to be 3 semi-frozen skeletons climbing out of this ashen soil, rising from their graves, dust falling off them. You notice as they sort of rise up, the air and the temperature where you are appears to drop by several degrees to the point where your breath is now forming a mist that's hissing out of your mouth.
Is there
so-
some place... Oh, go ahead.
I just want to ask a rules question. How far can we move? I know we're doing this theater of the mind, but about how far can we move on a turn?
Okay, let me just have a look and I'll tell you.
I'm just trying to determine whether these skeletons can get to us in a round or not. Really.
Okay, normally you'd be moving sort of about sort of 5-10 foot, so they're not going to reach you in a round.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So would Cassandra be able to then to find some cover while she gets her short bow ready to shoot?
Yeah, that is absolutely fine. There is plentiful cover around. Obviously, there's trees lying everywhere. There's still the dead trees that you can shelter behind. You're not entirely sure how much protection they'll actually provide, but there's plenty of them about, so that's not an issue.
Okay.
So I would like to do this. I would want to, first of all, I'm going to throw a hand axe at one of these skeletons, and then I'm going to just take a few steps so that I have a tree kind of to my side, so it's hard to be flanked.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So, since the skeletons are obviously rising up out of the ground, and you guys have seen them doing this, we're not going to roll for initiative because you guys will get to make a round of actions first because the skeletons are still rising up. So, Hargar, make your attack roll.
Just a D20 plus 0, right, as I recall?
That's it. They have an AC of 11.
No, my axe goes thunk into a tree.
Okay, yeah, your axe sinks into one of the deadwood trees before dropping out of it as the wood crumbles away and your axe falls to the ground. One of the rising skeletons reaches down, picks up your axe off the floor, and you see it looks strange with a sort of animated skeleton doing this, but you notice as it picks the axe up, it sort of swings it a couple of times, almost like it's testing the weight of the axe.
All right, I'll have my battle axe at the ready.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I guess I could shoot my arrow. Or there.
Okay, go for it. Make your attack roll.
All right. She's going to shoot her arrow.
You've got 11 or above.
Nope. Her arrow
There's a
Goes
Right
off.
through him. Goes right through him.
between the
Indeed,
ribs.
It shoots straight through the rib cage and sticks out of the tree behind him. Okay, so Dane, what are you doing?
Dane will smile grimly, his broken nose twists a bit more with the smile as he draws his sword and attacks.
Okay, you charge in, make your attack roll.
And what was a 7, so I think that's probably a miss.
Indeed,
Wow, we're doing well.
your sword scrapes up the bones of this skeleton, but given that it doesn't have any flesh, it's hard to tell whether you've actually done it any damage. Okay, so we next go on to Ember Rose. You've seen these skeletons rising up, Ember. What are you going to do?
I'll get a bit of distance on them and then fire a longbow.
Okay, go for it. Make your attack roll.
That's a miss.
Okay, you fire your bow, and again another arrow sticks into one of the trees. Okay, now, Graph, you've obviously sort of like realised this is going on now. Are you keeping your chanting going? Are you stopping and engaging? What do you want to do?
Graf will stop. With probably the most respect anyone's seen from him, he will carefully close the book, put it back to his side, and then that respect will disappear as he draws his weapons and shield. Pulls a club out.
Splendid.
And if I can get close enough to engage, I will.
Yep, you can charge in. You've seen Dane has already charged in up ahead.
Oh, excellent. Then I will attempt to strike one. Seeing how well this has been going for everyone else, I don't give it good odds. And that's a natural 1, so no.
Wow.
Okay, you go running into the combat. However, as you get near to the skeleton, just sort of drawing level with Dane, your foot catches on a root sticking out of the ground, sending you pretty much like sprawling on your front. You look up to see the grinning face of one of these skeletons staring down at you as it lifts a battered bronze sword in its hand. Okay, now Dane and Graf are the only two that can be attacked this turn, because everyone else has held back, whereas you guys have sort of charged in. However, we're going to go on to the normal initiative rules, so you guys might get to go before then. So I'm going to ask each of you guys, because you just roll initiative once for your group, who are you going to have make this initiative roll for you?
Oh, okay.
Who would you like it to be?
Not me.
You hear Graf shout as he's like on the ground, someone else roll it.
Well,
Who
you've
feels
rolled
lucky?
your 1. You've got your 1 out of the way.
All right. Here, 19. How do you like that?
It's only a D6,
Yeah.
it's only a D6 you roll.
Damn it!
Wow.
Damn
You
it!
got a good roll.
Hang on. And I got a 5.
Okay, you guys are going first. That beats the 2 that I rolled. Okay, so I'm going to start off with those closest to the skeleton, which is obviously Dane first.
Okay, second attempt then. These are sturdy skeletons, to say they're dead. Oh, that's a 9.
Okay, you swing your blade, and again it glances off the bones of the skeleton. We turn now to Graf. Obviously, Graf, you're sort of like lying on the ground, so if you're attacking this round, if you're trying to like get up and then attack, you'll be at a slight penalty to your attack, because you're going to have to like pull yourself off the floor, etc.
Graf will try. He'll put his shield over him as he gets up to try and block from any incoming attacks.
Okay, so make your attack, and there'll be a -1 onto your roll, because you're sort of like climbing to your feet and scrambling up.
Well, that's a grand total of a 5, so
Okay.
no dice.
You basically scoot backwards using your feet in your hands to sort of put a bit of distance between you and the skeleton. You swing with your club as you're crawling backwards, but given that it's just a sort of wild swipe, you don't manage to land a blow on the skeleton. Okay, Hargar.
All right, Hargar's going to step in and with a roar of anger, swing his battle axe at it. Another 19. So,
I believe that's the first hit of the game. So roll your
yeah,
damage.
out of 7 attacks. 4.
Okay, that is enough to dispatch one of these skeletons. So describe
Right. So-
how you fell it.
So I'm going to swing crosswise at it, because better chance on hitting this. I'm just going to like try and smash it into 2 pieces, basically dissect it. So I go right through the rib cage, and being an old skeleton, the bones all kind of shatter and fragment. A bit of a bone spray as it crumples to the ground.
Indeed, it falls to the ground in pieces, dust rising from its bones, and you just have time as you're crunching your battle axe through it, Hargard, to notice that the bones appear to be sort of like almost vitalityless and decayed in the same way as the trees, so that as you hit them with force, they're literally crumbling to dust as you cleave this skeleton
Like
in
chalk.
two. Indeed, leaving just
Is this the one with my hand axe? One of them picked up my
why
hand
not?
axe.
Why not? It falls to the ground. You hear like the chink of your hand axe hitting the ground, sort of about a foot away from you. You can reach down and scoop it up if
Good.
you wish.
I'll do that. Someone else can get it.
Okay, no problems. So, Ember, you've seen one of these skeletons felled as Hargar roars and rushes in with his battle axe.
Well, I'm not getting close to it, so I'll continue to fire a bow.
Okay, go for it. It's 11 or higher again.
Hit.
Roll your damage.
Yay! Let's
4
get that streak
damage.
going.
Okay, so describe how you take down the second of these skeletons with your longbow.
With some mercy, the arrow manages to actually penetrate the skull of one of these things. The skull powders as the impact fractures around its skull.
Indeed, it topples to the ground headless, its skull exploding in a cloud of dust, leaving just one of them remaining. And we come to the last person in this round, which is Cassandra.
She stays back in her cover and shoots her bow again. And I rolled an 11.
You've hit. Roll your damage.
I pre-rolled. It'll be a total of 4 damage.
Okay, that is enough to take out the final skeleton, so describe how you take it down.
She takes the moment this time and shoots more carefully. And she actually hits the rib cage, and the whole thing just kind of shatters. And all the rib cage falls apart, and the head falls to the ground and rolls off.
And indeed,
It's like a Jenga tower. You take out that one block.
Exactly.
that's it, exactly. And that is what happens. You all remain on alert for a few moments afterwards, looking around, listening for any signs of further attack. But after a few moments, silence has once again resumed in the dead forest, aside from the heavy breathing of those who have rushed into combat.
So I would like to walk over to the spot where I saw one of them rise. And as I do so, I'm going to comment, what the fuck was that? And I want to go over, and basically what I'm looking for is to see, was this guy like buried similar to the two we already found kind of thing? And something triggered this rise, or if there's something special about where he was buried. You know what I mean?
Okay, as you head over to where these skeletons rose from, you can actually see that they appear to have all been buried together. There is like a sort of impression in the ground, sort of the soil being displaced where they arose from, and you can see what appears to be a number of coins scattered in the hole, perhaps as grave goods, etc. You can also see there's a number of items of jewellery now sort of tangled up in the remnants of these bones, as though whoever these people were, they'd been laid to rest with some sort of ceremony and pomp.
Unlike the two we already found.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to kneel, and under the pretense of looking for identification, I'm going to start going through this jewelry and putting it in a little pile. Same with the coins.
Okay, it's a jumble of coins, assorted torques, gold rings, etc. You would give it a conservative estimation of it being worth about 100 gold pieces if you sold it all.
Is there anything on any of it that's a demarcation that might give us some clue as to who these people were?
You do see there's another of the torques which has the same depiction of the crude man holding 2 swords above his head. You can see that on this particular torque, someone appears to have like scored 2 marks onto it.
That mean anything to anyone? I show it to them.
The coins, is there a head on the coins
I'll flip them a coin.
that we recognise?
The coin spins through the air and you catch it, Dane. They appear to be largely featureless, flat gold discs. They do, on some of them, have sort of strange characters or sigils on them, but they don't particularly mean anything to you. They're not in a language that you know.
No idea.
So I'm going to use my best judgment. Oh, sorry.
So could it be some form of god if you've seen the same symbol twice, maybe?
Perhaps a leader of a country or a king, an emperor. Someone who fancied themselves important enough to be put on a coin.
It's most gods, isn't it?
I've heard of kings being on coins, princes, emperors. Barons, maybe. I'll use my best judgment to break the coins up into equal piles for each. And then I'm just going to pick up one of the piles and leave the other piles lying there.
Okay.
You know, the piles might be a mixture of jewelry bits and coin.
Yeah, well, as I say,
I'll do my best.
For convenience's sake, it's effectively worth 100 gold pieces. You can split that however you see fit.
Yeah. So I'm going to go pick up about 20 gold pieces worth, but I will have 4 other piles of about 20 gold pieces worth there as well.
Sandra will also pick up a pile.
No problems.
And thank Harger for sorting them.
Yeah, Hargar's divided up the loot.
But I'll take a pile and just start inspecting these coins.
I think Cassie would look at the coins too, very carefully.
Okay, you see, like I said, they've got a variety of different of sigils emblazoned on them. One thing you do notice, comparing the talk, which has the symbol of the warrior on it, with the one that Hargar found earlier, is there's a sequence of symbols underneath that design which are identical on the 2 talks. At which point, if you wish, Cassandra, you can make another roll on your lore.
All right. Oh no, she rolls a 6 on her lore. She's just not learning anything beyond what she can figure out on her own today.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Potentially the symbols underneath might be a name or some sort of identifier, but obviously it's difficult to tell because it's in a language you're not familiar with.
I'd like to keep kind of an eye on Graf. Specifically, I want to see if he's bothered by us looting these corpses.
That's a good question, actually. Graf, how are you feeling and how are you responding to these people just being like, yeah, we've killed these guys, let's grab the loot?
So, initially, he looks like he wants to take out the prayer book again, but thinks better about it. Looking at it up and down, he sort of shrugs and goes, it's like animals eating out of a nest of beaten animals. He then will actually split off a gold piece each and then just hand a gold piece out of his pile around and go, well, that's for saving me.
Okay, so you all get an extra gold piece out of Graf's pile.
I'll take it and feel like I deserved it.
Okay, now I suppose the question here is, do you guys choose to press on or do you make camp for the evening?
Well, is anybody wounded?
I don't want to spend any longer out here than we have to. Everyone seems okay. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
fine.
everyone's all right.
Okay.
I hurt my knee, but I'm fine.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a sort of skinned knee, but like I say, by and large, you're okay, Graf. So, where do you guys want to strike out for next?
One direction's as good as another. I say we keep going northwest.
Yeah, if we keep going the same direction, I think it'll be easier to keep track of.
Well, if we don't get lost, it'll be easy to find our way back.
Okay. So you continue heading northwest. Another day passes, so anyone who's not foraging will need to deduct one of their rations.
I lucked out. I got a 1, so I'll keep my ration for today. What did I find? I'm curious as to what's living out here that's edible.
Okay. After some searching around,
Berries, nuts.
It's slim pickings out here. You're just about to give up, Hargar, when you spot what appears to be a fairly plump-looking rat scurrying amidst the trees, no doubt fruitlessly foraging itself for what little remains here. And obviously you're quick with a dagger, etc. If you wish, you can harvest said rat and you will not have to use any rations for today.
Listen, in my past, it's not the first rat I've eaten, so I'll do that. I'm going to half-heartedly offer some to the others, but it's more out of curiosity to see if they'll take it than a willingness to share.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Free rat.
Sandra looks at her rations and decides that she's okay for now.
I'll try some rat.
All right, I'll toss a strip to each person who agreed. And I kind of like those people a little bit more now.
It's definitely a little bit gamey, but it's edible. You don't seem to suffer any ill effects. You may have a bit of an upset stomach for the next day or two, but nothing serious. And you guys are sort of a toughened, adventuring sort, so it's not going to cause you any undue problems. However, as you're sort of searching for this rat, Hargar, you've just sort of offered it around, and you're just having a general sort of look around the area where you found it. You know, after all, where there's one rat, there might be another. And as you're sort of looking across to the west of where you are, you see what appears to be a particularly large and old tree. And as you're looking at it, you can see that it appears to have a rope, a noose hanging from one of its largest branches.
Empty or in use?
It appears to be empty. However, as you're looking at it and you're sort of like I say, you'd have to travel for like best part of a day to actually reach it, but it's like massive. That's why you can see it. You can just about make out what appears to be the bleached white of a bone amidst the tangled roots of the tree.
What do you make of that? I think we might have something to suggest the cause of all this death around here. Or maybe those who did the hanging just chose this spot for that reason.
I don't know. This place looks like it's cursed to me.
'Tis bleak.
It really is. She takes a moment to take some notes. Grabs out a scroll, writes some things down, stuffs it back in her scroll case.
No
One of you,
problems.
Graf. This seems more like something you might have a word to say on.
This isn't right.
That's all we get. This isn't right.
Perhaps it was a just hanging. Perhaps it was a bastard that deserved it.
Why use a tree like that? That's just that's not nice to the tree.
I think the tree's dead.
There's a single tear from Graf's eye at that.
Nice.
Well, there's not many steady trees here. Perhaps they just found one that could handle the hanging of a body. Or 100 bodies.
Nothing here seems right, and I don't like it.
Well, if I was going to hang someone, that's the tree I'd use.
Well, let's go and have a look.
Okay, so are you guys travelling west to this hanging tree, or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We got a place marker now, too, so we should be able to go towards that.
Indeed. Okay, so anyone who's not foraging, you'll need to deduct another ration as you travel for a
Oh,
day.
there's good rat in the area. Let's see. No.
Okay, so as you travel and you draw level with this hanging tree, you can see you're on what appears to be the edge of this dead forested area. You can see just beyond the bounds of where you are, sort of like a day to the southwest of you, it breaks out into rolling plains and more healthy looking copses of trees. As you draw level with this tree, you can see it's the largest specimen that you've seen thus far in this dead forest. And hanging from it is this noose. You can also see what appear to be the remnants of other bits of rotted away rope hanging onto those, as though it's been used for several other hangings in the past. Now you're closer, you can also see a scattering of bones lying like a carpet around the base of this tree.
Well, Hargar knows what he's out here for, so I'm going to go, digging through them bones. But I'm gonna do my act. Speaking the dead come to life, so.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Whilst Hargar moves in and he's sort of like axing around and looking at what's on the floor and looking around the tree. Is anyone else doing anything in particular at this point?
Yeah. Follow suit. I too have a hand axe.
Is the branch which has got the noose on it in reach? If you were to jump up and try and grab it,
If you were to jump up, you could probably reach it. Yeah.
Graf's going to try. He's going to look at it and see if it actually supports his weight.
Okay. What's Graf's strength score?
His strength is 10.
Yeah, that's fine. You jump up, you sort of like grab hold of this thick branch. It creaks a little as you grab hold of it, but it seems to be holding your weight. Obviously, your movement has sort of like disturbed the branch a little bit, and the noose just starts rocking backwards and forwards gently.
He'll let go, drop back down, and sort of scratch his head. You know,
Okay. At this point,
it's
I'm
tougher
going to
than
ask,
other trees.
can you all please make me saving throws?
Oh no, Graf is the problem.
That's a D20 in this game.
Yeah, it's a D20. You need to get equal to or over your saving throw score.
Your saving throw score. Oh, I
Well,
see.
over-
Is it magic, John? I get a bonus against magic.
It is magic.
Okay, thank you.
I got a 20.
Oh, you're grand.
I also got a 20.
You are also
I got a
grand.
15.
Well, as long as you beat
I'm good.
your saving throw, you're good.
Yeah. The
Okay,
plus
okay.
4 helped.
So how about Dane and Cassandra then?
Well, you know, I don't want to feel left out by not rolling a 1, so there you are.
Okay.
There's a 1.
How about yourself, Cassandra?
I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted and I wasn't. I got a total of 21.
Okay, that's fine. So you're all absolutely fine. You do feel a slight sort of sense of like feeling like depressed as you walk into this area. It's not surprising. This dead forest is drab, devoid of life. You're constantly coming across evidence of people having been killed or executed. It's not surprising you're all feeling a bit down in the dumps. However, as you're sort of feeling that way, you turn around and you probably notice this first Graf. You've just sort of dropped down from the branch, like say the little noose is swinging a little because the branch has been disturbed. When you spot Dane, he appears to have a sort of slightly glazed look on his face. He walks over to the noose and he just starts lowering it over his head.
No. Try and snatch the noose away from him.
The fuck?
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask both Dane and Graf, can you both roll me a d20? And we'll see who gets the highest.
Oh dear.
Oh, 18.
Yep, that beats my 2.
Okay, as you sort of, how are you trying to stop Dane from like putting this noose around his neck, Graf? What are you doing? You just like running up to him, and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, what are you doing?
Yeah, running up, trying to grab the noose and reach it, push it out of his height, which I presume he's about the same height as me, which doesn't work.
Okay, you take 1 hit point of damage as Dane just like lashes out with one of his fists, sort of knocking you backwards, and then sort of turns around and carries on putting this noose over his neck.
Help!
Yeah, are we able to respond here at this point?
Yeah, you can see that Dane has now got this noose around his neck, and as you watch, you can see the rope, almost as though it's like a thing alive, has started like tightening around his neck. But he's still,
So
he's
I'd
still
like
sort of
to-
glazed over.
I'd like to just walk over with my axe and try and cut the rope. Just swing the axe through the rope.
Okay, you don't have to make an attack roll, because obviously it's a rope, you're not going to miss it. Roll your damage.
On the rope. Okay. 5.
Okay, you hack the rope, and you're rewarded by seeing it fray and sort of bits of it fly off. However, as you watch, the rope almost seems to like twine itself back together again and fix it. So you notice
it
now
back.
it slowly started to like pull itself up the branch. You see like Dane's actually started to be that lifted like a couple of like inches off the ground. His legs are sort of kicking, as this is happening, Dane, you suddenly like snap back into yourself. As far as you're concerned, you were just stood near the tree one moment, then suddenly you've got this like noose around your neck, which is making it hard to breathe. You can feel yourself like being pulled into the air.
Well, grab hold of the rope above me and relieve the pressure.
Okay, yeah, it's a temporary measure at best, but you're quite strong. All the rest of you see Dane appears to like snap back to his senses. He reaches his hands up, grabs the rope, and like uses it to take a bit of stress off. But obviously, he's not going to be able to hold that forever. Although you have relieved the pain of like suffocation on yourself at the moment, Dane. Is anyone else doing anything?
Yeah, Cassandra wants to try cutting the rope with her longsword, just to
Okay.
see if she can get through it.
Roll the damage for your longsword.
6.
Okay, you step up and you sever the rope. Dane, you fall to the ground. As soon as the rope is severed and you hit the ground, it loosens around your neck, and coughing and spluttering, you're able to take in a deep breath.
Thank you.
As soon as the rope looks like it's loose, Graf will try and grab it and just throw it away.
That's fine. You grab it, you throw it away. You notice that it appears to like writhe almost like a serpent for a few moments as you sort of throw it onto the ashen soil, and then it remains still.
There is a
Is there
clear
any
look of...
chance we could
Sorry.
burn this thing?
I second
I
that.
didn't think that's a good idea. This is an awful big forest full of very dry wood.
Yeah, I don't want to catch the whole forest on fire, but maybe we could burn this rope anyway.
Does anyone have anything they can use to burn the rope?
I do, but I have a different idea. This seems to be the only tree we've found capable of supporting weight. Any other tree, the branches seem to snap off. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to swing my axe at the tree. I'm going to see if I can chop the tree down. I got an axe. I'm a dwarf.
It's very thick. You think it'll take you the best part of a day to like chop it down. However, and normally they take a bit longer, but because of this sort of like dead, decaying wood, you think if you had the best part of a day, you could probably chop it down.
All right, so I'd just like to take maybe a half a dozen chops into it. I want to see if it self-repairs like the rope seemed to be doing.
You hack into the tree, leaving some like deep cuts into the trunk. However, after waiting a few moments, it doesn't seem to be repairing itself. One thing does strike you as odd, though, as you're doing this. As you look up, you can see sort of like the little bit of rope that was left hanging from the noose. And as you watch, the rope slowly extends, forming itself into another noose. Although it makes no further attempt to menace you.
Okay.
Are there other trees near this tree?
There are other sort of blackened, decaying trees scattered around in this area, but this is like there's a small sort of like clear area around this tree, and this is the biggest tree you've seen since you entered this dead forest.
Would Cassandra think it would be safe to just try to burn this tree down? Rope and all?
You're liable to start the forest on fire.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I know.
You think
We didn't need to do
that.
that.
you think given the sort of like the clear area around this tree, you'd probably be safe to do that. Obviously, normally you'd have to worry about winds, etc. But since you're in a forest, there's not a lot of wind getting through here, to be honest. So you think you'd be all right?
I've got another idea.
Yeah, that one could go wrong. So what are you thinking?
Well, this is an old trick I learned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make chop marks all around the tree. It's just called girdling the tree. Basically, you cut all the way through the bark, all the way around, a continuous cut, and the tree starves to death because the food can't get up to the branches.
Yep, not a problem. You make these deep cuts around the tree. Obviously, you take your time about it, so it takes like a couple of hours, just to make sure it's all safe, etc. But afterwards, you're pretty sure that if there is any life remaining in this tree, it's not going to be remaining for long. You've done for it.
There. So back to these skeletons. I want to see if they had anything on them like the other ones did.
Okay, you start looking around and searching the various skeletons that are lying around. As you're looking around, you find that one of them is wearing a bronze ring that appears to have a small clear gem set in it.
Yeah, I'll certainly grab anything that's of value and start making another pile like before.
Okay, well, like I said, there's only really this ring. I mean, it's not very well crafted. The gem itself is fairly sort of crudely cut, to be honest. If you want to make a further appraisal, given that you're a dwarf, you can roll me a d6 and tell me what you get.
All right. I got a 4.
Okay, you think, given the raw sort of nature of this gem and the very crude craftsmanship, this ring's probably only worth like a gold piece on the general market. You might get more from a collector if you sold it as a curiosity, but just selling it to like a general merchant, you get like a gold piece for it.
So I'm not going to make any secret of the fact that I found this. I'll make a passing comment about how a trinket and just stuff it in my pocket.
Okay, Dane, you're still sort of like sat on your arse basically where you've fallen. Obviously the rope's been taken off you now and you're sort of sat on the ground. What are you doing?
I'm thinking about the last bed I was in back at the fort and how good it felt. When I get my senses back together, I'll give Hagar a hand looking around, and if we don't find anything else, then
Okay, as you're moving to stand up and give Hagar a hand, for a few moments it's as though you're transported elsewhere and you're watching what appears to be a parade of people gathered around this huge tree. But now the tree is living. There are many nooses hanging from the branches. You see a large group of people. They appear to be savage warriors of a sort you're not familiar with. Their muscular bodies covered in woad. They're wearing bronze torques and sort of crude furs, each of them carrying bronze weapons. You watch as a single person walks through this crowd, flanked on either side. The person willingly walks up to the tree. They place their head in the noose, and one of these mighty warriors hauls them up into the branches of the tree. You see them gasping for breath, their feet kicking, before eventually they expire. At which point one of these figures, who again wearing the woad but appears to have sort of animal bones twined into the furs that they're wearing, walks up with a bronze dagger, makes several cuts on this deceased hanging person, and collects their blood in a small clay bowl, which it then passes around to each of the assembled people. They drink some of this blood very solemnly, and then they all give a rousing cheer or a shout, and they begin hanging various necklaces, gold, torques, etc., on this hanging body, and begin taking it down from the tree with great solemnity and ceremony. And then your vision clears and you're once again stood back in the dead forest as the vision rolls away like a mist, and you're sort of staring once again at Hagar, who's chopping into this tree.
Steady myself with a hand against the trunk of the tree where he's been cutting.
Okay, you put one hand on the trunk of the tree, you put the other down on the floor to sort of like push yourself up into a standing position. And as you put your hand down on this sort of like layer of ashy soil that you've been sitting in, you feel the ground appears to like give slightly below your hand as you sort of push yourself upwards.
Oh, there you go. I'll start digging a bit further, a bit harder.
Okay, so the rest of you guys, you see Dane sort of looking at Hagar. He starts to sort of get up, then his face appears to glaze over again. For a few moments you're like, oh, is he going to try and hang himself again? Then he like snaps back into himself and he just starts madly digging at the area that he's been sat on.
Yeah, I'll go over and investigate, sure.
Okay, not a problem. You dig through...
Cass is going to be there. They're sorted, by the way.
Okay. You dig through a couple of feet of this ashy soil. Since it's sort of gravelly and ashy, it's quite easy to move. And as you dig through it, suddenly there's a as the remaining soil drops down into what appears to be a large round hole in the earth. Looking down into it, since you're at the mouth of it, Dane, you can see what appears to be as though someone has like crudely carved steps into the rock, heading down into the darkness of this hole.
Intuition. I had a vision before I found this. I saw an age long ago. This is indeed a hanging tree. The last, possibly the last victim was a king himself. It was bizarre. They drank blood. They drank his blood.
Well, I don't really care about any of that. If he was a king, there's bound to be wealth below, and that's why I'm here.
Should have seen the wealth they draped upon his dead body. If that's down here, then we'll be rich.
Well, let's go. Let's get at it then. Just a rules question. It says I can detect slanting passages on a 1 to 4. What does that really do for me?
Right. Well, basically what that means is if it comes to any sort of like questions of architecture, or you want to know anything about a structure, you can make a D6 roll. So let's say you were like can I get a rough idea of like the size of this place based on like what I've seen so far? You make your D6 roll 1 to 4. You'll get an answer. If you want to find out anything related to the structure of a place, like a building or anything like that, you can pretty much find out with that roll, because you're a dwarf, you're used to building things.
I got it. Yeah, so I'm going to take out a torch, and I'm going to start heading down, and then I'm going to check to see if they're following, because, I never exactly asked.
Okay, so Hagar, you walk down these crudely hewn stone stairs. You can see you're in what appears to be a narrow tunnel of sorts, very crudely hewn out of the bedrock. It appears to extend about 50 feet in front of you, then it turns sharply to your left.
Seems to go on for a bit. I say we explore it.
Wait for me. Right behind you.
Cassandra lights a torch and says, I'll come too. Come along. I think we'll need you all.
Graf will... There's a visual thought process where he wants to grab the book, then realizes that's a bad plan, silently grabs his holy symbol, mutters something, and then pulls out his club and shield and follows.
Okay, so most people are heading down into this barrow, for want of a better term. Is there anyone remaining above ground, or are you all going in?
Not really. It might be some traps down there. So I'll be going down.
Okay, no problem. In the light cast by your flickering torches, you all head down this roughly hewn tunnel. You move forward for about 50 feet, then it turns sharply to the left, and you can see what appears to be a crude stone archway that leads into a larger chamber. As you're looking at it, Hagar is just sort of like the first thing. You can see this chamber is about 50 foot by 90 foot, give or take. You can see there's a lot of equipment lined against the walls here, mostly shields, spears, clubs, etc. A lot of it appears to be in fairly bad condition, but it's all lined up against the walls. You can also see what appear to be a number of skeletons that have been sort of leaned up against the wall as though they're silent guardians of this chamber. As you look around in the flickering of your torchlight, you can see another archway to your right as you walk in, so in the southern wall of this chamber.
So there's an exit to the right as well as the place we're coming in. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a step into the room, and maybe because of recent events, I'm just going to chuck my torch at the skeletons. I want to see if they react.
Okay, you hurl your torch at one of the skeletons. It hits the skeleton and sort of falls apart into dust. It doesn't give any signs of reacting in any way.
Oh, good. So I'm going to pick up the torch. I don't want to then take a look at the spears and shields for identification, see if who made them, what race, anything. Any markings.
That's absolutely fine. So you're looking for any markings, etc. You say,
or if I can maybe recognize the construction and know, okay, well that's dwarven made or elven made, or.
Okay, it seems you think to be of human manufacture, but it's of a sort of crude, primitive manufacture that, you know, most humans in the barren lands where you come from, they've advanced far beyond this point.
Do I see maybe bronze tips like I
You do
saw
indeed.
on the arrowhead? Same folks responsible for the.
Yes, they were savages.
They could have been asking for it. Oh, there's nothing of value here, except maybe to a history. Press on. I'm going to pick up my torch and kind of move into the next room. A little bit annoyed. This room wasn't more interesting.
Okay, not a problem. You move through the archway in the southern wall of the chamber. You see another rough-hewn, rocky chamber beyond it, about sort of 50 foot by 50 foot, give or take. As you're coming in from the northernmost point of this chamber, as you walk in, you can see there's another arch in the eastern wall of this chamber and in the western wall of the chamber. As you walk in here, you can see what appears to be a single skeleton lying in the middle of the floor, and underneath it is what appears to be a human body, still sort of whole, has flesh on it, etc., wearing crude sort of travelling clothes, leather travelling clothes, but of a sort of modern manufacture, like you might see a person in Fort Endeavour wearing, and it's as though this skeleton has sort of fallen over the top of it. And as you move in and you're looking, Hagar, you can see that there is a sword sticking out of the chest of this human body, and it's gripped by the skeletal hand of the skeleton that's fallen on top of it.
So, suggesting the skeleton killed this person.
Perhaps.
Perhaps this is one of those recent adventures that set out and didn't fare as well.
As you're entering into this chamber, and you say that, Hagar, there's a fairly sort of putrid stench coming from this sort of rotting corpse that's lying in the middle of the chamber. You can also see what appear to be a number of what must have once been like clay pots and urns, but they appear to have been smashed. You can see also, just like lying just out of reach of the outstretched hand of the human corpse, is another one of these clay urns. However, this one appears to be whole, and it's got like a large wax stopper on top of it.
It would seem adventurers were here before us, did some digging, I point at the smash urns, found something, and then was ambushed.
Cassie, looks at that pot. Like, why was he breaking pots? What's
Looking
it now?
for treasure,
in this
same
hot
as us.
pocket?
See for yourself. I'll hand her the pot, and I will start digging into the fresh corpse. I'm just going to smash the skeleton away.
Yeah, that's fine. You smash it away with your battle axe. You hand this sealed clay pot to Cassandra. As I said, Cassandra, you can see it's effectively a small little clay pot, about just a bit larger than a man's fist, and it's sealed on the top with wax.
Graf is going to keep an eye on the two exits and just keep a general eye around the room while this is going on.
I think Cassie, rather than trying to open that pot, is going to throw it hard on the ground and hope that it breaks.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You hurl the pot on the ground. There's a psh as it breaks open. You can see inside what appears to be a small shriveled piece of meat, and some sort of like thick liquid oozes out onto the ground as it smashes. There's a pungent smell of spices that drift into the air as the urn shatters.
That thing creeps her out. She's going to hit it with her sword, see if she can pierce it.
Okay, you move over with your sword and you sort of like poke at this dry piece of meat. As you're nearby, you can see it's what appears to be a shriveled and preserved human heart.
Graf, look at this.
Oh, what the?
I think we're going to do another lore roll, and I'm going to find a dice that rolls low somewhere. I need to know what this thing is. I rolled a 1!
Okay, you know that amongst some ancient societies, it's their custom that when a great hero or a respected figure dies, in order to preserve them, they will often remove some of the more perishable organs from them. They will then place them in a sort of preservative fluid or a spice mix and put them in jars to sort of like preserve them and for the future, basically. It's part of funerary rites.
Just looking at that skeleton, which seems to have somehow possibly damaged, killed that guy. And she's looking at that heart, and she's like, we need to do something with this heart. It must be destroyed.
Go ahead.
As you're saying,
I'm going to
Cassandra,
search.
there's a...
Oh, you go ahead.
And you feel
It's beating!
you feel the heart pulse slightly up, sort of like as you're poking it with the end of your sword. And this very loud echoes around the chamber that you're in.
Break it?
For Poe's sake, kill it.
Graf will stamp on it.
You stamp on it, there's a loud wet and bits of this heart splatter across the stone floor of this roughly hewn chamber. The beating sound ceases.
I'm going to... sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm going to search this adventurer's body. The gore doesn't bother me. The smell doesn't even bother me. I come from a family of coal burners, and that's a pretty bad smell, so I'm used to dirt, grime, and being filthy. If he's an adventurer, he might have adventuring supplies that I can use.
Okay, you find that as you're sort of searching this body, it's also been dead for a while. It's in that sort of sticky, wet phase of decomposition. But like you say, you've smelt worse. You turn him over, you rifle through his things. You find he has a pack containing 4 days' worth of dried rations. He also has what appears to be a small blue gem that you would estimate is worth about sort of 25 gold coins.
Can hardly split up this one gem. We'll keep it in a group pile. So I'm going to show them an empty pouch, and I'll put it in an empty pouch. As for the rash, I'll just add them to my own. I don't care who this guy is. I have no interest.
That's absolutely fine. You've just about sort of finished sort of turning him over, basically, when as you're sort of like chucking him back down to the ground, what appears to be a small piece of parchment that was tucked under the strap of his satchel falls out and flutters to the ground.
I'm just going to hand it to Cassandra. I figure she's probably the best reader among us. I'm not even going to look at it, just writing.
So Cassandra's going to, I guess she's going to look at it and try to read it.
Okay, you turn it over and you can see that it is written in common, albeit hastily scrawled and quite poor grammatically. It appears to be some sort of like the jottings of this person you've found, and it says, I believe I may have finally found the barrow mound of the ancient chief Thangar. With the riches that lie within her, I'll be able to set myself for life when I get back to Fort Endeavour. All of my companions have been lost to various trials throughout the forest, but I alone have pushed on and made it to the barrow mound. I'll be rich Rich! And then it sort of trails off.
Oh dear. That doesn't look too good. He said this is the ancient burial mound of Thangora.
For one, I'm grateful.
Yes,
He was competent enough to find the place, but incompetent enough to get the treasure, leaving it for us.
well, he had help finding. He had help getting here. He was alone here, and obviously this is dangerous. Obviously, that beating heart thing.
How fresh does the body look?
The body looks as though it's been here for sort of like a month or so, although it's
Okay.
difficult to tell because of the environment it's in, and you don't know exactly how much damage, other than the final killing blow the skeleton did to him.
I'm just thinking, yeah. So that skeleton probably killed him. So there's still. Let's be careful about being rich until we're sure it's safe. That's all I'm saying.
There's a point where Graf would just...
It's not safe in here. We wouldn't be here if it was safe. There wouldn't be riches here if it was safe. People would have got them already. Riches are what we pay for risking danger. Did not expect safe.
No, I'm not saying expect it to be safe. I'm saying expect it to be dangerous and be prepared. Deal with them and then get rich.
There's a point where Graf will just sort of look back at the entrance, back into the room, back into the entrance, back to the room, and then go, "Who blocked the door?"
Block the door? The way back is blocked?
No. You dug to find this place. Who blocked the door since he came in?
Maybe
It
Lloyd.
looked like maybe Detritus had just fallen to the hole, covering it up.
Okay, while all
Besides, it wasn't that covered.
while all this conversation's going on, Ember, you've been sort of stood there, like taking in the room, like you said, you were on the lookout for traps, etc. As everyone else is debating the potential covering up of the entrance, Cassandra's looking at this note. Everyone's preoccupied. You look down at the body and you notice that the flesh of the body appears to like ripple slightly, as though something was moving beneath it.
Step away from the body for a minute. That's not right.
What's not right?
The skin's
This
rippling.
place?
No, the skin's rippling on the body.
For fuck's sakes, what
Ember
now?
points down at the body and you can see it. It's as though like there's a lump on the skin moving, as though something's moving within the body. Then there's a wet squelching sound as the skin erupts upwards, and what appears to be a small sort of worm of some kind, about the length of a finger, bursts out of the skin and sort of waves its head around as though sort of scenting the air. If you think of like the sandworms off Dune, but like a miniature version, it has that same sort of tripartite mouth. It opens its mouth and lets out a little squeak as it's moving its head around, as though it's like scenting the air, and snaps its jaws. And like I say, it's not very big.
Hargar has killed gophers before, so I'm gonna axe this thing.
Yeah, no problem. You hit it with an axe, it explodes with a squelch, and a foul-smelling fluid leaks out of it onto the stone floor.
I'm gonna scan the body, see if I see any more movement, and have to play whack-a-mole.
You do see a little bit more movement. Eventually, you spot another two of these like worms crawling out the body, and you dispatch them in a similar manner.
Well, there's your answer. That's the fate that's in store for if you die in here. Shall we move on?
East or west?
Right, so we've got two choices now, as you described it, right, John?
Indeed. Yeah, there's you came in through
Took a left,
You came in through an arch in the
and
north
then a
wall.
right.
There's one in the east wall and there's one in the west wall.
I think that's right. We did a left, and then a right, and now we've got two ways to go, something like that. I don't know. I'm going to take the one that leads away from the entrance.
And Cassandra marks down a quick little map on one of her scrolls and stuffs it back in her
Okay,
pack
well,
and prepares to go on.
not a problem. Both entrances are effectively sort of heading perpendicular to the entrance, so it's pretty much down to you which one you're going to go for.
All right. Well, I'll see if I can
Roll a dice.
bring my knowledge to bear here or there. Being a dwarf,
Yeah.
where might I think the more central chamber might be?
Okay, make your D6 roll. You need a 1 to 4.
3.
Okay, you sort of move around the room a bit, and you're sort of like you're checking the gradient. You get down to floor level. You're looking at the walls and the arches, etc. You notice that the sort of arch that's leading to the east and that heads into another sort of smaller chamber, that actually appears to be like sloping downwards slightly, as though it's been cut deeper into the rock.
If it's the king we're looking for, he'll be this way. I'll just start walking that way.
Okay. Follow after.
Graf will follow, scraping his boot as he walks to get the remains of the heart off.
Okay, no
As he
problems.
goes as well.
Okay, you move into. So go ahead.
As we're walking, I want to partly to I don't know, like take the piss, and partly out of curiosity, I'm gonna say to Graf, "Have you had encountered the living dead before? What does your god say about that?"
They're not right. He actually pulls out his book and starts reading.
Are you reading
I'll
aloud
chuckle.
to your companions, or?
No, he won't read aloud. He's learnt that lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's trying to. I get it. So I'll chuckle at his reaction.
Okay, you move through the arch in the eastern wall into a smaller chamber. You can see sort of on the opposite wall, the eastern wall of this chamber is another arch, and as you're peering through it, you can see it appears to lead to another one of these tunnels and another roughly hewn staircase that is heading further deeper down underground.
All right. So while I'm confident that I could find my way out, maybe for their benefit, I'm going to make little marks in each doorway.
Yep.
To indicate a direction, like kind of just basically a crude arrow pointing back where we came in each doorway we pass through.
And I guess you might make a crude little map as they go too. Every so often, stop and just note down, the corners and the corridors.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. I'll leave it to you guys to make your maps. Okay, are you all heading down this roughly hewn staircase deeper underground?
Yeah, I think so. That's the way I'm.
Great misgivings.
Okay, you head down the staircase, roughly hewn though it is. You continue for about 50 feet before the tunnel takes a sharp turn to the left again, and you see what appears to be another chamber beyond. This appears to be pretty much a similar layout to the first level, as you're sort of looking at the size of the room. Hagar, again about sort of 50 by 90 feet. It appears as though they've sort of basically just dug a load more rooms below the original ones.
Does this room is it similarly filled with skeleton guardians and old shields and spears?
It is very similarly furnished, although you notice that the swords and the shields, the weaponry, etc., although badly decayed in here, it appears to have once been far more ornate than those in the level above. And however, your attention is drawn to what appears to be a large pit in the centre of this room. It's not like a pit trap, it's uncovered, it's obvious, and you can smell a sort of a horrible, almost savoury or briny smell wafting up out of this pit.
That could have to be good.
It's at this point, minutes later, the Graf then goes, "Kill them." You
Kill what?
The things, the dead, living. What you said? I didn't point.
Thank you, Graf.
What? You want me to kill the smell?
No. You said about dead. You kill them. It's here, and he points to the page.
Thank you.
That's
Very
what your
helpful.
god says.
I found
Yes. Well, without that guidance, I wouldn't have known what the fuck to do. Thanks.
it. You're welcome.
I suggest you don't fall in. I'm going to just walk around the pit.
Okay, not a problem. You walk around the pit, and as you're sort of peering down into it, you can see there are what appear to be a large amount of bones at the bottom of the pit. You spot a couple more of these sort of worm-like creatures moving around the bones, and as you watch, you can see they actually appear to be slowly secreting some form of fluid, which is like dissolving these bones, and then they're slurping up the resultant semi-liquid mess.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll just leave them to their meal. I really don't want anything to do with them. I'll press through this room and further in.
Okay, you head through the arch in the southern wall, and again it appears to be following the layout of the previous floor. You can see what appears to be a large bronze bowl in the centre of this room. It looks as though it might have, due to the sort of like charred bits of wood, etc., that are in it, it looks as though it might have once held some sort of fire or ceremonial bonfire, and carved onto the walls of this room are what appear to be crude depictions of ancient tribal warriors. There is also on the southern wall a large mural or carving showing a figure holding two swords above its head, and you can see a number of warriors bowing forward to it.
Human figures.
They're crudely depicted, but they do appear to be human, yeah.
I'm going to go over with my torch in hand. I'm just going to see if I can light the bowl, light the brazier.
You don't think it'll last particularly long because there's only like a few bits of wood in it, but you can certainly light it, and as you do, a sort of an orangey light fills the chamber, throwing strange shadows onto the walls and the carvings thereon. It almost looks in the flickering light of this brazier as though the figures are moving or flexing.
I'll stand in front of the mural.
Okay.
Cassandra, what do you think of this?
Cassandra
Meeting anyone?
kind of waves back at the others. Come along. What? And she's going to go through the room that has the pit and creep along the side of it because that pit just creeps her out. She doesn't like that.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You follow Hagar into the chamber with the brazier that he has now lit, and you can see in the strangely flickering light these crude depictions of tribal warriors and this leader-like figure being bowed to by these warriors on the far wall.
They almost seem to be moving, don't they? And I rolled another lore check, and I got another 1. I found the right dice.
Okay, as you're looking at it, you think, given that you already know that this is the burial barrow of a tribal chief, that the figure with the two swords is obviously a depiction of this chief. The other people around him are his tribe, his warriors, who are showing him the deference due to a chieflet.
I believe that's Thangara that he mentioned in the note.
And indeed, as you move closer and you look at it, Cassandra, you can actually see that carved below the figure is the same set of inscriptions that are on the torques, the necklaces that you found. Given that you've now got extra evidence, you believe that the symbols are their language's way of like writing the chieftain's name or his title.
She makes note of this in the back of her mind, right down in her chronicles. And
sorry.
She's looking at these figures. Are they actually moving, or is it just the light that's making them look?
It appears to be a trick of the light and the flickering of the flames. They're not actually moving.
I think it's just the light making them look like they're moving.
Yes, but perhaps the artist knew that the brazier would have that effect on it and drew it so.
I'm sure it was carefully planned.
Now that I know this is a picture of the chief, I'm going to look at, I know it's crude, but I'm going to look at the picture and see if the picture is showing any jewelry or things like that.
Okay, you don't notice any signs of jewelry or anything like that. However, you do know that the majority of the carving, as I've said, is fairly crude. However, there appears to have been a larger amount of effort put into depicting the two swords that the chieftain is holding.
Okay. That could be the prize, the Pete prize here. Well, perhaps this is a sign we're getting closer to his chambers.
Are there any obvious things like pots or anything that would hold treasure in there, or possibly more beating hearts of some sort, or horrible things?
Not that you can see in this room.
Okay.
Be ready for anything.
Just going.
Bound to have some defenses.
It's like Ember. Ember. What can you find
Hello?
in here?
Sorry?
Oh, she's going to call for Ember. Let's see if maybe Ember can find anything in this room of interest or value.
I will have a good look at the area.
Okay, as you're sort of looking around the rooms that you've been through, etc., you don't find anything in this room. However, as you're sort of checking back into the previous chamber, the one with the pit, you can see in the sort of the stone floor, very faint and sort of clogged with dust, what appeared to be sort of track marks, as though something heavy was dragged up to the edge of the pit.
There's nothing really in the room you're in, but over here, the pit, it looks like it had something heavy pushed into it, maybe over it, perhaps even above it.
Sacrifice, perhaps.
Or that could be the chamber. Maybe they've protected it with these spikes and these worm creatures.
There is, beyond this carving room, the tunnel continues, John, yeah? The chamber continues?
Yep, beyond this room, like I say, it's matching the layout of the level above. There is an arch in the eastern wall and an arch in the western wall. Now, you know that if it continues to match the layout of the level above, the eastern arch will presumably take you to another stairway heading further into the rock. You didn't explore the western arch above, so you don't know what that holds.
Right. I didn't think so. They seem to respect this chief, and that doesn't seem to be very respectful. I gesture towards the worms consuming bones.
Yeah.
Also, I can tell you almost for certain there's at least one more chamber below us.
Well, it's a matter of perspective, though, isn't it? If you've got a god of death, then surely you'd honour that god as well during the period of burial.
Well, if you're that curious, you're welcome to go in there, but I won't.
I will look around the pit some more.
Okay, let's say you look around it. It doesn't appear to be a trap as such. There's no sign of a covering or anything along those lines. As you peer down into it, you can see that there are these bones that are resting in a sort of liquid soup, effectively, which you suspect may be composed of the sort of like the leftovers of the meal of these strange worm-like creatures and possibly their waste. There's a sort of like, you don't know how deep the pit goes, but you can see there's like this semi-liquid layer that the bones are resting on, and occasionally you see one of these small jawed worms moving about.
It's a garbage pit. It's no place for a king.
That's the thing, though. You never know.
Get the evidence. Look, open your eyes. I say we go deeper.
Deeper always sounds good to me.
Look, if there's nothing below, we can always come back here.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's the plan, guys?
Well, I'm going to start heading deeper.
Cassie's willing to go deeper too.
Okay, you head through the eastern arch of the chamber with the brazier in, and you're unsurprised when the small chamber you head into mirrors the one on the level above. And you likewise are not surprised when you see a small tunnel with a further roughly hewn staircase heading downwards.
Yeah, I'm going to proceed down. I'm going to go a little bit more slowly. I'm also going to kind of keep an eye on the construction of this place. The deeper you get, the greater risks of cave-ins and things like that. So.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. Okay, so you head down this staircase, your torch casting a flickering light. When, as you reach the bottom of the staircase, you can see from the layout in front of you that this level does not appear to follow the same layout as the two levels above. And as you reach the bottom of the staircase, Hargar taking up the lead, so to speak, in the flickering of your torchlight, about 10 feet beyond the bottom of this staircase, you can see what appears to be a large bronze figure with this demonic, horned, leering visage staring back at you with shining red eyes.
Could you define large in that usage, please, Mr. Large?
Yep, no problem at all. The figure is about 20 feet tall. It's huge.
Gems for eyes, you say? What do you make of that?
You can see that the only way to continue down this passage, since it pretty much fills up the entirety of this tunnel, is the fact that the legs of this statue are open, and you would have to walk under its legs to continue down the tunnel.
I think that's
so the rock is kind of shaped to its body as it stands, or
not entirely, but because it's quite large, it fills most of the available space.
It's as wide as the tunnel.
Yeah,
okay.
You could possibly try and squeeze around it, but it would be a squeeze.
But if it's 20 feet high, I mean, that means it's a 25-foot high ceiling. That's quite, or more. That's quite the excavation. Like
Indeed,
the system,
given
the logistics of getting this thing down here.
Indeed, and given your knowledge, Hargar, of the fairly crude methods that have been used to hew this place out of the rock, you are very surprised that these people with such primitive tools could actually get this thing down here.
I don't like the look of that. Not at all.
I'm going to just dig a little pebble out of the wall, whatever, and just plink it off of it.
Okay, not a problem. You throw this pebble, it dunk off this large bronze figure and falls to the floor.
Okay, well, I'm going to boldly walk up to the thing. I'm going to stop before I pass through its legs. Okay. And I'm looking for any kind of plaques, warnings, demarcations, here lies the king.
Okay, you can see there are some symbols on the base of this large statue. They don't resemble what Cassandra says is probably the name of the chieftain, and you're not entirely sure what they do say.
Can anyone make any sense of this?
Obviously, I don't want Cassandra.
I guess. I can look at it. Well, I think the roll of 6 isn't going to do any lower there, so she's just going to have to rely on what she already knows, examining the markings and thinking about the ones that she's already seen and seeing if there's any correlations.
Okay, you think that this may be, and you're just generally basing this on what you know about tribal and primitive societies. You think that perhaps this is some sort of depiction of a deity or perhaps a guardian spirit. You know that some of these ancient societies, they would place such idols in there, believing that they would protect the barrow from robbers, etc.
So I can't read this, but it seems to me it's probably some powerful spirit or being to guard this tomb. And I don't exactly know what.
Surely you mean symbolically.
I don't know. Sometimes these are
Yeah.
thought to have great powers. The undead were up above already before we even got in here. There's been a lot of kind of crazy things going on.
Moving stone may be the next strange thing.
Well, those that aren't bold are not going to get rich.
Sure.
Those that are too bold are going to get dead.
Well, I think I'd rather be rich,
Dead and rich.
take the risk, than poor. I've had enough of poor.
Yeah, of
I'm
course,
going
not so much.
I'm going to walk ahead. I'm going to watch for maybe shifting floor, ground, something like that.
I'm going to wait
My
till
dwarven
he goes.
knowledge.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I know. I'm the sacrificial lamb, but
Okay, so,
Makes sense.
so you're going to duck through the legs of this demonic idol and continue down there.
well, when you say duck,
Well, yeah, you
No.
probably don't have to duck a lot, to be perfectly honest.
I'm going to carefully proceed.
Okay, you walk forward, and just as you're about to duck under the legs of this idol, the area you're in, the area immediately surrounding the idol, is suddenly lit up with a red light, as though like beams of light have sort of lanced out from the rubies that make up the eye of this idol. You don't feel any harm or like immediate effect, but everything now has a weird sort of red tint to it in this corridor.
I look at them. I shrug.
Uh,
Well,
Is anyone else doing anything at this point? As Hargar,
did he actually go all the way
I want
through?
to know what activated that.
it seemed as though, like when Hargar got sort of level, as though he was just like ducking under to go through the legs of this statue. That's when these red lights came on. As you look at the rest, obviously you can't see this Hargar because you're like ducking under its legs, but the rest of you can see is that it's as though there is a light inside each of the rubies that make up its eyes, and this sort of red glow is filling the tunnel.
look. Either the treasure in here is recoverable or it ain't. And if it ain't, we may as well turn back now. But if it is, then we're going to have to press on. I'm for trying.
I'm right behind you.
Well, I'd rather blind this thing first.
Yes, yes. Is there some way to blind this? I have a little mirror. Is there some way to use that?
Also, if we had those stones, we might not need torches.
And there certainly would be part of the treasure, eh? Unless, of course, they're cursed.
Well, the eyes will still be here if we get back this far. And I'm thinking most of the treasure is going to lie with a king, and I didn't think it's this.
But if those
I'm not
eyes are
saying
part of
this
the
is the treasure.
trap, let's get them out of there.
Trap?
Oh, there's bound to be a
Trap.
trap. You know that.
Why?
Because they always trap treasures. They don't want people taking them.
She had trap eyes, but well, I cannot climb up there.
I'll start
Yes, yes.
climbing.
Okay, yeah, no, you have no problem scaling the bronze figure. You're sort of like level with its face now, and it's this horned, fanged, leering, demonic visage. As you look at it, you can see the lights glowing inside these two rubies.
Well, I've got a crowbar, so I'll start prying at the eyes.
Okay, not a problem. You start prying one of these rubies free. Can you make me a saving throw?
$14.
And while he's
Just made it.
doing that,
You just made it.
Yep.
Okay, as you prise out one of these rubies, just as you're sort of levering it out, you spot what appears to be some form of liquid behind the eye, sort of in the reservoir behind
Yeah.
the ruby. You grab the ruby out and swing to one side. There's this hiss as this sort of dribble of liquid. Obviously, a lot of it's evaporated over time as it sort of dribbles down onto the floor, sort of past where you were standing, almost spouting out. As the liquid hits the floor, it hisses and smokes in an alarming fashion.
Oh, there's your trap.
It's alarming.
Making note of that, I will prize out the other eye.
Okay, you prize out the other eye, a similar thing happens, but you're prepared now, so you avoid it. You now have 2 rubies. If you sort of flash them to Hargar, he'll say that they're probably worth about 200 gold pieces each.
Scale down.
Okay, you can see the 2 discoloured patches on the stone of the floor where this acid or whatever it is has like eaten partly into the rock, but obviously it's not done it too much damage.
I'm no longer in a spotlight then, as well.
No, as soon as you pull the rubies out, the light flickered and died in them, and there's now just your torchlight. You suspect, Ember, so that once there must have been like a large reservoir of this liquid behind each of the eyes. It was sprayed a huge torrent of it out, but a lot of it over time has obviously like evaporated or sort of gone off, and there's just like a thin dribble in there now, or there was.
So that's safe. Now we can go on.
Yeah, trap's been found. Good spotting. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to walk through the legs now. Again, I am kind of keeping an eye on the floor, though, for shifting floor.
Okay, no problem. You walk through the legs. You continue about 60 feet down this tunnel. You see the tunnel continues up ahead of you, but to your right, so in the western wall as you walk down, there is another one of these archways. It appears to open up into an extremely large chamber, about sort of 90 feet by 90 feet as you sort of poke your head through the arch. You can see what appeared to be probably about 20 or 30 skeletons here, all lying on the floor, all wrapped up in tatters of cloth. Each of them has weapons, shields, spears, etc. placed around them.
You just know some of those are going to come back to life.
We may have to go through that. Carol mentioned she wanted to take a short break.
Okay, yeah, if everyone wants to take a 5-minute comfort break, I'm fine with that at the moment. Okay, so we'll take a break for 5 minutes, guys, and we'll pick up at 10 past.
Okay.
All right.
Right. Cheers.
Okay. John, can I ask a quick rules question?
Feel free.
Turn undead, as you know, that might be useful coming up. Are you running that as once per encounter, or as the optional rule of as a first level spell?
Let me just have a look and I'll tell you. I'm using the default rule, so once per encounter.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem at all. How are you finding it so far?
It's fine, man.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I hope Graph is just not being too problematic.
No, it's not absolutely fine. I wouldn't say anyone's done anything problematic so far, to be honest. But the only real problem I've got at the minute is having so many bloody windows open on my computer at one time. It's getting to that point where I'm like, do you know what, I'm just going to have to like pony up and like buy an extra monitor.
Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, it's a bit awkward because I'd be struggling to like find the space to actually like put them next to each other on the desk I've got here. So
Get a large curve monitor, man. You get about 4 screens out of one of them.
oh, nice.
I'm back.
Splendid. How are you finding the game so far, Ian?
Interesting. After my encounter with the noose. But yeah, it's fine. I'm enjoying it too.
Glad to hear it. I was just saying to the others, I think I'm going to have to like look at getting myself an extra monitor or something, because like the amount of windows I've got open at the minute is ridiculous.
Yeah, I manage with this widescreen one that I've got. But I have contemplated getting another. How about going up rather than wider?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
both.
with mine, it's mainly because I'm having to sort of like capture bits and pieces to go on the recording, so I can't have anything like covering them. So I've got to have like, I've effectively had to like half my screen and have like the map on one half and everything else on the other half, which is a bit of a squeeze, but it's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
You could always wall mount a monitor, mate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, just have monitors all around your room.
So for that 360-degree gaming experience.
Screw that super villain layer.
But like some fucking Minority Report.
Yeah, you can have a mini me.
If I'm ever Mega Rich, I swear I'm going to have a room where I have a remote control I can press, and iron shutters go down over all the windows.
Panic button.
That's it. I'll have to wait for Carol to get back and then we'll crack on. You guys are doing pretty well so far. I think the only damage anyone's taken is when Dane clocked Graf when he was trying to like take the noose from around his neck.
Oh, that's a good sign, isn't it? The only damage that's been taken is technically PvP.
I don't think it counts as PvP when he's been like controlled by some sort of evil magic.
I'm not sure if Graf can tell the difference.
Yeah.
We were off to a really bad start there, too. 7 misses in a row.
Yeah, I've not apologised for that graph because I don't really know that I've done it.
Oh, no, Graf thinks you're top dog now.
Okay, so is everyone ready to crack on then?
Yes, I fed Pulse with their lunch, let the dogs out, all the good things.
Okay, so as I described, you're looking into this large chamber hoggob with these warriors laid out. As you're sort of peering in, you can see that there appear to be archways in the west, north and south wall of this large chamber. As well as obviously the passage you're in, sort of continuing straight on as well.
So this room with all these armed skeletons, do I think that the central room is beyond that? We got to go through it, or is there another room?
Well, you can see that the skeletons in here are sort of far better equipped and sort of more ornately equipped than others. So you might assume, having been talking to Cassandra a bit about these primitive societies, that these are perhaps like a sort of honor guard, if you will, or something similar. So if that is the case, then the sort of the chief's chamber probably adjoins this one, since he would want to keep his honor guard close.
Right. I was basing it more on the construction than the.
Oh, in which case maybe a d6 roll you need a 1 to 4.
Basically, I want to see if there. I got a 2. I want to see if there's another possible route. Do I think there might be another possible route to this chamber, or we got to go through this?
Okay, you think, given that you've seen the passageway, so if you choose not to go through the arch into this room, it continues straight on. There might be like another route, perhaps a more sort of like long, winding, like ceremonial route into the chief's chamber, but you think it probably does adjoin this one. Obviously, you'd have to actually like go into this sort of ceremonial chamber with these skeletons, etc.
Either way, I got to go through.
Well,
this.
possibly the other route might take you around it. You're not sure. You can't really tell that from the architecture.
I think this way will be shorter, but it could be. Well, those skeletons look well armed. They may come to protect the king. What do you think? Should we look for another route? Should we press through?
If we're going to press through, then we might want to put everybody that's strong, better at fighting at the front.
Yes, I would think so.
Like, Raffler.
Press through it is then.
Okay, splendid.
I'll stay in the back.
You enter
Yeah,
into
so
this. Sorry, go ahead.
as a precaution, I'm going to like go to the entryway. This is an archway.
Mm-hmm.
And you said they're all lying in piles, right? Skeletons?
Yeah, they're all sort of laid out as though they're sort of like lying next to each other, as though they look as though they might once have been like a unit of soldiers. They're sort of lined in a regimented way.
Are they head to
so
toe?
I'm gonna,
Sorry, say again.
Are they head to toe?
Yes.
I'm going to take one of my unused torches and chuck it into the pile, followed by my lit torch. Set them on fire before they even come to, if they're going to come to.
Okay, you throw your torch into the middle. Now that it's illuminated, you can get a better count of how many skeletons there are in here. You can see there are actually 10 of them in here. As the sort of torch lands in the middle of them, they're not wearing any sort of like cloth or anything like that, so there's not really anything to like catch them on fire, but your torch is sort of like flickering where it's landed in the middle of them.
Yeah, my hope was that the bones being fragile and stuff, the fire might do some harm. Okay, so I'm proceeding on the assumption that these things are about to jump up. I've got my battle axe like in a ready to swing position, and I'm going to step into the room.
Cassie's like, why didn't you poke one?
Poke one,
Graf will step in with Hagar.
Okay, as you step into the room, as you rightly surmised, as you enter the room, these 10 skeletons rise to their feet, holding bronze shields and spears. They turn to face you in a very regimented fashion, all turning at once to look at you as you walk through the archway, and they drop back into a sort of fighting stance.
Well, I'm going to suggest that maybe we should get surprised, or at least go first, since we were ready exactly that.
Yep, you guys get a round of acting before they get to go. That's fine.
I know what I'm swinging. 17.
Okay, that's certainly enough to hit, so roll your damage.
For smash, 5.
Okay, describe how you take down one of the skeletons.
So I'm going like for a wide cleave. There's a crowd of them. I'm just swinging at the heart of them and smashing through bones indiscriminately.
Indeed, one of the skeletons is quickly reduced to little more than a pile of dust as Hagar runs in and lays about it with his battle axe. Okay, who wants to go
As a
next?
free action, I will yell.
Who wants to go next? It's your guys' initiative.
I'll throw a hand axe and then follow.
Okay, make your roll.
That's a 14, which I believe is a hit.
It is indeed. Roll your damage.
5.
Okay, your hand axe spins through the air and strikes one of these skeletons like directly in the skull. There is an explosion of dust and bone chips as it topples to the floor with the clatter of its equipment. Who's next?
So Graf will grab his holy symbol, present it forth, and utter in the deepest voice he can manage. In the name of Malloy, you are prey, fear me. And attempt to turn undead. Oh, poor Graf. That is a 9 and is a failure.
Okay, so you shout out to your god. However, you feel a strange sort of disconnection from the source of your divine power in this place, as though this place belongs to far older gods than the one that you worship, and you feel that the sort of words die on your lips as you say them. It doesn't appear to have any effect on the skeletons.
They're not afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
It's all right. It's all right, Graf. We'll be all right.
Ah!
Okay. Ember, what are you doing while this is going on?
I'll fire a bow.
Okay, make your attack roll.
Nine.
Okay, your arrow sticks in the ribs of one of the skeletons, but it doesn't appear to do it any major harm. Okay, so our bardic friend, Cassandra, what are you doing?
All right. She's going to, as they went in there, she got her bow out. She's going to take a couple quick shots because I realize the short bow has a rate of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so her first shot, she gets 15
That hits.
for 4 damage.
Okay, so roll
And her
your
second shot goes wild with an 8.
Okay, however, your first shot is enough to dispatch one of these creatures, so describe how it goes down.
All right. Well, this one, once again, I think she's got this like aim for the middle of the chest, hit the spine this time, and shatter the skeleton from the middle out.
And that is exactly what happens. I believe it's only Dane left to go now.
Oh, I threw an axe.
Oh, of course you did. My apologies. Okay, so I'm going to ask one of you guys to roll your initiative. You're going to need to beat a 6. Or at least equal a 6.
What do we need to roll? What dice?
D6. You roll
D6.
2
Sure. What?
6s. You said die.
My D6 gets a 5. Woo.
Okay, so they are going first because I rolled a 6. Okay, so now obviously feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that Dane and Hagar are at the front. Now, obviously, Graf, you said you were sort of like stepping forwards and sort of like doing your commanding, sort of like turning. Are you sort of level with Dane and Hagar, or have you hung back a bit?
I'd probably be level with them, to be fair, to try and get as close and shove the holy symbol in their faces.
Okay, in which case what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 of these attacking Hagar, and 2 on Dane, and 2 on Graf.
My AC is 14.
Okay, that's cool. So I will
Chain
do.
hit.
I'll do the ones on you first. So 1 hits and 1 misses. Okay, so you take 2 hit points of damage, Hagar, as 2 of these skeletons sort of hack at you, one of them scoring a shallow wound with its sword. so I'm going to do the ones attacking Dane now. What's your AC, Dane? Okay, I'm afraid both of those have hit you.
Oh.
You take a total of 6 hit points of damage as you find yourself stabbed twice by 2 of these skeletons.
Alright. I'm not alright.
Okay, we then come to the 2 that are attacking Graf. What's your AC, Graf?
Depends on whether you want to give me the shield bonus or not. 17 if it's yes, 16 if not.
I would say probably not, because obviously you've just finished your sort of turning attempts. You wouldn't really be holding a shield for
That's
that.
completely fair.
But in the following rounds, obviously you'll be able to swing your shield around. Okay, so that was one of those has hit you. You take 4 hit points of damage as a sword sticks into your chest.
I'm still up. Just.
Okay, there are 7 of these animated skeletons remaining that are attacking you. It's over to you guys. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'm at the front, so I will go again. The Rob wants to run, but Harger not a chance. So I'm swinging. Yeah, I got a 12. The 12 hit.
Okay, let me just check. I don't believe so, but
Damn it.
no, it doesn't hit. Oh, actually, did you say 12?
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it just hits. That's literally exactly what you need to roll to hit.
7 points of damage.
Okay, that is enough to dispatch one of the 3 attacking you, so describe how you take it down.
So again, I'm swinging like in a wild, going for a home run kind of arc. So I probably just destroy the closest one, and I might like knock like a few little bits and chips off the other ones in a wide cleaving swing.
Indeed, and that is exactly what happens dispatching one of these skeletons. So we're going to jump onto Dane now, who's at the front. There's 2 of them stabbing into you, Dane.
Yep. He's staggered back by those 2 blows, but still on his feet. And he swings, trying to protect him as much as possible, himself as much as possible with his shield. He swings back with his broadsword. And hits the 15. Oh, but does 1 point of damage.
Okay, you chip,
Chips a bit.
yeah, you chip a bit of bone off one of the skeletons, slowing it slightly, but it's not enough to kill it. Okay,
That makes sense.
Graf.
Weakened.
Like a cornered animal, Graf is going to unleash a feral sort of rage as he pulls his club out.
Nice.
And rolls a 12.
Okay, you have just clipped one of them with your club. Roll your damage.
That is 3 points of damage.
Okay, you mercilessly beat one of these skeletons. It's pretty much like one of its arms is missing, one of its legs is almost shattered at the hip. However, almost impossibly, it is still moving and feebly trying to stab at you with its sword. Okay, so to the back rank, Cassandra, what are you doing?
All right.
Now,
Well,
I will point out at this point, just so that you guys know, if you're firing into combat, since they're already now engaged, is very difficult indeed. To basically, the way this works is if you fire into combat, the shot is randomized between the participants of the combat. If you spend your entire turn sort of aiming and just do one shot, then one of the people counts as like 2 targets. So if you're just firing like off the hip and you're like, oh, I'm going to shoot at those, I'm going to shoot at that one that's attacking Graf, it'd be a 50-50 chance of you hitting Graf. However, if you aim for an entire round and just take one shot, then it'd be on a roll of a d6, it'd be like 1 to 2 to hit the skeleton, so 1 to 4 to hit the skeleton, and 5 to 6 to hit Graf.
oh boy.
Got a staff.
I think she's going to take her time and aim.
Okay, so at the minute, all 3 of your companions that are engaged with these creatures have 2 of them attacking.
Okay. I think she's going to go for one of the undamaged skeletons. Since her luck has been good at actually damaging things.
Okay, so before you roll your attack, you need to roll a D. Whose skeletons are you targeting?
Oh,
If
let's
you're
see.
looking for the person with the most undamaged skeletons, it's Hargar, who has because he's killed his 3rd one, and there's just 2 undamaged ones.
Yeah, I think I will take one of the ones near Hagar.
Okay,
Hargar.
so before you roll your attack, roll me a D6. If you get a 1 or a 2, you've hit Hargar.
Okay. I got a 6.
You are fine, so make your attack roll. You need a 12 or above.
And I have a 17.
Okay, roll your damage.
Let's see. Oh, that would be 16 actually, because I lose. No, the damage goes down one, not the hit. Okay, so it would be 4 damage.
Okay, so Hargar, you're just stepping up to engage these 2 remaining skeletons, but suddenly, out of nowhere, an arrow strikes the skull of one of them, exploding it in bone chips and shards of dust, and it topples to the ground with a clatter.
I'll just nod without losing battle focus.
Okay, Ember.
How are they now grouped? Are they paying more attention to the fighters than they are to us?
They appear to be engaging the people at the front. As you look around, quickly taking in the battle, you can see that there are 2 of them fighting against Graf, one of which is pretty much falling to pieces. There are 2 attacking Dane, one of which has a bit of minor damage, and there is a single undamaged skeleton engaged with Hargar.
Who looks the most damaged out of all of our people?
Okay, it's over to
Dane,
you.
isn't it?
Graf, how are you doing in terms of damage?
Graf is barely standing.
Okay, so Graf looks as though he's almost down for the count. Hargar, I don't believe you've taken any damage.
Yes, I have. 2.
Dane's at death's door as well.
Okay, so Dane and Graf both look like they're at death's door. How are you for damage, Hargar?
Down 2.
Okay, so Hargar's got a few minor injuries, but he's all right. Whereas Dane and Graf look there, a strong wind could finish them off.
Okay. I will go to assist Dane then. As these things are distracted, I should be able to get a quick strike him with a dagger, at least in theory.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So make your attack roll.
Is that
D20.
11?
Okay, unfortunately that's not enough to hit. You run in to the side, jabbing with your dagger, but the skeleton spins around and deflects your dagger with its blade.
That's fine.
Okay, so I believe that's all of you guys having gone now, so it's back round to them again. So I'll do the first couple attacking Graf. What's your AC, Graf? You've got your shield
now that my shield is in play, it's 17.
Okay. One of them has hit you.
Oh no.
Okay, you take 4 hit points of damage.
Right, that reduces me to -3.
Okay, so one of them stabs Graf through the chest. Do you want to utter any dramatic last words as you topple to the ground? Graf.
I don't want to die.
He falls to the ground, this sword sticking out of his chest, and you're his face, as he's lying on the floor, his face turns towards the rest of you. You see it's pale as the blood's pumping out of his chest wound, and in an almost childlike voice, he just says, "I don't want to die," and then his face just sort of hangs open, unmoving. Okay, we move on to the 2 attacking Dane. And I'm going to do 1 attacking Dane, 1 attacking Ember, because you've now moved in. So Dane, what's your AC?
15.
And Ember, what's yours?
12.
Okay, so the one attacking you misses. Dane, thrown off balance by the Ember's attempted attack. And the one attempting to attack you misses as well, Ember. So it's just the one remaining attacking Hargar. So what's your AC, Hargar?
14.
Okay. And the one attacking you misses as well. Okay, so it's on to you guys. You can see that the two that were engaged with Graf, one of them is moving to join the ones attacking Dane and Ember, and the other one is moving to attack you, Hargar. But obviously they're not going to get to act in their next turn because they're moving. Okay, so Hargar.
Yeah, I'm swinging at this remaining one in front of me. I got a 14.
Okay, you've hit. Roll your damage.
5 again.
Okay,
So,
there is a... Go for it.
Angrily, I'm just bringing my axe down a blunt side onto the skull, kind of just shattering the skull. And as the body's falling, I kick it away with my boot, and I turn to whirl at the one who fell Graf.
Okay, excellent. And you can see that that is the one that is moving towards you, so you're like ready, you're braced to like take it on. Okay, so we move on to Dane. Dane, you and Amber are sort of side by side, facing off against these two skeletons. A third is moving up behind you.
Well, try and get rid of this one as quickly as possible.
Go for it.
So, swinging hard. Oh, and that's a miss. Glance off his shield.
Indeed. So we're going to go on to Amber because you're involved in that same sort of combat now. As I said, there's a third skeleton approaching, but it's not got to you yet. There's the two you're fighting. You watch as Dane launches a furious attack, only to see it ping off the bronzed shield of the skeleton in front of him.
18.
Okay, that's a hit. Roll your damage.
5.
Okay, describe how you dispatch the skeleton that's in front of you.
The one that's just parried his blow, I'll actually go for that one, so my arm will dart into the middle of the melee and stab the thing in the chest, properly ripping out a good chunk of the bone as it does so.
Indeed, you stab your blade into its chest and rake it down through the desiccated rib cage. Without the support of the rib cage, it collapses into a pile of dust and bone. Okay, so we move on to Cassandra. You can see that there is one skeleton still fighting against Dane and Ember, and another one moving up to engage them, and the skeleton that felled Graf is moving towards Hargar, who's gripping his axe resolutely, waiting to meet it.
So there's only 3 skeletons left?
Indeed.
All right. She's going to move up next to Dane,
Okay.
dropping her bow and grabbing out her longsword and her shield.
Okay.
And she's going to attack. I'm not really sure. Is there one in front of them that's injured, not injured? What? There's
only really one in front of them. It has some minor damage, but just like a few chips.
Okay, well, she's going to attack that one.
Okay.
No. Just no. That's not okay. It's a net one.
Okay.
Just not okay.
You swing at it. You lunge forward with your longsword that goes through the rib cage of this skeleton. It spins around to face you, and as it does so, it like yanks your sword out of your hand, and it's like stuck in this skeleton's rib cage.
She goes, no! She's waving her shield around to protect herself.
Okay, so we go on to the skeleton's turn. The one that's moving continues to move towards you, Hargar. It's now within range, but obviously it's moved, so it's not going to get to attack you this turn. A second one moves up behind Dane, Ember, and Cassandra. The one that is still facing off against them is going to attack you, Cassandra, because you just plunged a sword through its rib cage. What's your AC, Cassandra? You're muted.
Sorry about that. With my shield, it's 13.
Okay, so I'll make its attack roll against you. It hits. You take 6 hit points of damage.
That's all the hit points I have.
Okay, what does that reduce you to?
0.
Okay, so you're not technically dead because you've not gone to like -1 or below, but it's basically taking you out. So what you, as Ember and Dane watch, this skeleton reaches to its rib cage, pulls out the same longsword that Cassandra plunged through its rib cage, and delivers a vicious swipe across her chest. She lets out a groan and topples to the ground unconscious. As you glance down, Ember and Dane, you see that she's still breathing, but it's shallow. Okay, over to you guys. So we'll go with Hargar first. This skeleton has just about reached you. Hargar, you're there. You've got your axe.
Yeah, battle axe at the ready. And a chopping. I got a 13.
Okay, roll your damage.
5 again.
Okay, as it steps up, you
I'm
describe how you do
angry
it.
now. Like, these things are just... So there's definitely emotion behind my attack. I'm like... And even if as it's falling, I'm smashing it again and again. Kicking the bones out of the way and stepping forward.
Indeed, you can all hear Hargar sort of like screaming as he just hacks wildly at this skeleton, just reducing it to a cloud of dust. Okay, we move on to Dane. The second skeleton has moved up. There's 2 facing you guys now. Dane and Ember, you're sort of stood like over the unconscious body of Cassandra. There's 2 skeletons in front of you. Dane, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'll step forward so that there's at least some protection for my fallen friend. Try and take the one that's just approached now.
Okay.
And no, I'm trying too hard. I missed again.
Okay, you step forward as the skeleton now holding Cassandra's sword is about to plunge, and just you're about to attack it, you realise it's about to plunge its sword into Cassandra, and you basically sort of throw yourself against it, doing no damage, but pushing it away from Cassandra and stopping it from like coup de grace-ing her, basically. Okay, Ember, there's a skeleton in front of you. You've just seen Dane has knocked one of them back, although he's not really done any damage.
Stab it.
Go for it.
14.
Okay, that's a hit. Roll your damage.
1.
Okay, you chip some bone fragments off it, but it's still moving. Okay, we're going to go on to the skeleton's turn. So I'm going to do 1 attacking Dane. It hits. You take 4 hit points of damage, Dane.
Oh dear. I shall join the cleric in the afterlife then, in that case.
What's that taking you to?
It's -2 or 3.
Okay, do you have any heroic last words you want to utter as you're impaled by this skeleton using Cassandra's sword?
I'll use one of the dwarf's expressions. You bastards!
Okay, so as this skeleton plunges Cassandra's longsword into Dane's chest, you hear him scream out, "Ah, you bastards!" And then the skeleton sort of boots him off the end of its sword and he falls to the ground. Okay, so we move on to the 1 attacking Ember, which misses. Okay, back round to you guys. So I'm going to go for Ember first because obviously you're sort of in it. Your 2 companions are lying like on the ground next to you. You're under no doubt that Dane is dead given the huge like wound in his chest. Cassandra is still alive, but things are getting a bit dicey.
You consider 2 out of 5 people dying a bit dicey.
What are you doing, Ember? You're muted.
Take a couple of steps back. Just to get my bearings on this.
Okay.
And then I shall go for the one that's attacking Hargar, because he's still alive.
Okay, Hargar has pretty much like dealt with all of his now. There's just the 2 that are like facing you, so Hargar will probably be moving in to like, help you out.
Okay, then I'll take out the one I've already damaged.
Okay, go for it.
17.
That's definitely a hit. Roll your damage.
6.
Okay, describe how you take it down.
I'll punch up with my dagger so it catches it on the jaw but severs the top of the skull.
Nice. As the skull flies off, the longsword that belongs to Cassandra that it was using clatters to the ground out of its now useless hand, and it collapses, leaving just a single skeleton sort of advancing on you. However, we've still got Hagar to go. You can see this last skeleton moving up Hagar.
Right, so as far as I know, this skeleton has killed Cassandra and Dane.
Yep.
So I'm full barbarian Hulk mode here. Raging away. Oh, that's an 18 on the die.
Roll your damage.
So, and then 5 again.
Okay, describe how you run in and dispatch the last skeleton.
So, as I said, it's full rage. It's like, mash, mash, mash.
Okay, the final skeleton is reduced to dust.
So, I guess when I've come, I'm going to look at the.
I'll start finding
Ember's,
Cassandra.
Ember's the only one other standing.
Okay, roll me a d6.
She's still alive?
Roll me a d6, Ember.
Yep. 2.
Okay, you now have 2 hit points, Cassandra. You sort of wake up to find Ember binding your wounds and to see the dead bodies of Dane and Graf lying nearby with hideous wounds on them.
Oh no. Thank you for saving me. And she's just looking around at the carnage.
I'll hand her back her sword.
Yeah, Hagar walks over and he hands you back your longsword, now stained with the blood of your companions.
And my own.
And your own, yeah.
Just shakes her head. She knew she lost it.
Okay, as you're walking across Hagar, you glance to your right into the archway in the northern wall, and you can see a large chamber beyond. The walls are covered in these carvings, far more elaborate in there. Obviously, you have to go in to actually get a full look at it, but you think from the elaborate nature of the carvings that this may be the tomb of this great chief.
Well, I'm going to check that out in a moment. Before I do that, I'm going to go over to the bodies.
Okay.
My 2 fallen comrades. I'm cold, but I mean, they helped. I'll kneel beside them. Maybe, close their eyes. Maybe pull a cloak over their head. And, yeah, well, I might as well take their loot. There's no good to them. I plan on splitting it.
Okay, yeah, I'll leave you to sort out corresponding with Sean and Ian what loot they've got that you can take from the bodies. That can be sorted out afterwards, but that's fine.
I have a quick question too, before he's done, or after he's done.
Go ahead.
Just regarding the binding the wounds.
Yep.
Can you bind your own wounds?
Wounds can only be bound once.
Okay.
So yours have already been bound, so you can't heal any more hit points from it.
But in the future.
Yeah, in the future.
If I'm up and I'm wounded, I could bind my own.
Yeah, if you'd been conscious, you could have bound your own wounds, but once that binding's been done, you can't do it again, whether it's you or anyone else.
Well, I will bind my own wounds as well. I mean, I got injuries.
Okay, that's fine. Roll a d6 and you get that many hit points back. Obviously, Ember, if you've taken any damage, you can likewise bind your wounds.
No.
In which case, you're grand. You don't need to worry about it. Okay, and an eerie silence falls over the stone chamber, only broken by the sound of fabric as Hagar pulls the hoods of your dead companions over their eyes and shuts them.
Let's hope this was worth it.
Yeah. Cassie takes a moment to pull out a parchment and scribble down a few notes, already in the back of her mind composing a story, including the heroic deaths of her comrades.
Nice.
Perhaps when we get back to Fort Endeavour, perhaps we can find their next of kin. Let them know. I'm sure someone at the church would know of Graf. I'm going to walk into the king's chamber.
Okay, no problems. You walk into the next chamber. It is covered with these fanciful carvings done in far more detail here, or perhaps they've just survived the ravages of time better. In the centre of the chamber is what appears to be a large stone table or block. Lying on it is a single figure wrapped up in decaying cloth and bandages, wearing what appears to be a bronze mask depicting a demonic face, rather like the idol you saw earlier. The figure is wearing bronze armour and has a shield and spear clasped across its chest.
So I'm going to snort, and then I'm taking no chances. I'm glad I made it to the treasure, but I'm really pissed at the cost. So I'm going to take out my axe, and I'm going to approach this thing from the side axe first, and I'm immediately putting the axe to its throat. And any motion at all, if this thing fucking twitches, I'm slashing its throat.
Okay, as you move up to it, you can actually see that sort of underneath its shield that it's holding across its chest, its other hand appears to be holding a clay bowl. You can see what appears to be about an inch or so of coagulated blood in the bowl. So it must have been, because it's like not dried out entirely, this blood must have been put in there fairly recently, so within the last month or so. And as you're sort of like looking at this clay bowl, you're like Cassandra and Ember moving in behind you, you can see that sort of in common, like with the blood, someone has written like very shakily, it looks similar to the handwriting you found on the note earlier. It just says, "The blood helps you understand." And they've like written it around the edge of the bowl.
So Graf ponders that. He gives a sideways glance at his companions. I don't need to fucking understand anything. I know what I want. So I'm not going to heed that advice. But I am going to keep the axe blade right at the throat of this thing.
That is,
and I'm going to start,
fine.
Carefully looting it.
Okay, not a problem. You start removing the armour, the various finery. As you're sort of looking under the bandages, you find what appears to be a ruby. You've effectively got enough gear to be the equivalent of about 300 gold pieces, and you think the gem is worth about 109 gold pieces, give or take.
What about do I see a pair of swords as depicted in the...
You look around, and at first you don't see a pair of swords, but as you're examining it more closely, you see that the body actually appears to have been laid on top of the swords. They're underneath it.
If someone wants to drink of that blood to understand, feel free. If not, I'm shoving the body off. I think the swords are underneath.
Cassie kind of looks around. What do you think?
There's a little heap of treasure on the floor there that hasn't been stripping the pieces off.
If you're going to shove the body off, take the head off first.
That's a good thing. But Cassie's like, I need to understand. I need to know. Why don't you wait a second? And she's going to go ahead and do the drink the blood thing.
Okay, you head over planning to drink some of the blood. However, as I described previously, it's coagulated. It's like just like jelly in the bottom of the bowl. So you wouldn't really be able to drink it. You'd have to like chew it. One of the best things.
She kind of uses her fingers to kind of grab out some of it when her fingers gives it this horrible lick and sticks it in her mouth.
Okay, can you make me a saving throw, please?
Oh, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I know. I don't know why I'm doing this. Insane. Let's see. Which one do I roll? Saving throw. It needs to be a 15.
Some of us crave wealth, others crave knowledge.
She rolled a 19 on her saving throw.
Okay, as you sort of eat this gelatinous blood, your stomach's like heaving. You're like, whoop, whoop, but you manage to like keep it down.
No.
It tastes
Her
coppery.
teeth.
It tastes like copper and rot. It's absolutely rancid, but you manage to choke it down. For a few moments, nothing seems to happen, and then as you're looking around the room at all these carvings, it's as though a soft light is illuminating them. And as you're looking around at this sort of carved characters on this stone tablet that the chieftain is lying on, you can see that it says, "When he is most needed, our chieftain will awake to lead us into glory."
In between her gagging and everything, she describes what she sees to them. And she's like, if we waken him, will it wake? I don't know if it will waken him to take his sword or not.
People to glory. No.
I know.
I've been attacked by enough of his people. I'm taking Ember's suggestion. I'm gonna like hack the head off.
Dismantle this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to make a roll for that. That's absolutely fine. You chop its head off. It falls to the ground. The skull lands on the ground, disintegrating into powder, and this sort of like bronze demon mask it was wearing rolls to the side.
I'm going to stamp on the powder.
Yeah, not a problem. You stamp on it, reducing it to an even finer grain of powder. It's now just like someone stuck a handful of flour and scattered it on the ground. That's what it's like.
Cass is going to take her sword and cut off one of his arms.
Yeah, not a problem. You can dismember this body and thoroughly satisfy it. You pretty much reduce the entire body to powder, basically.
Is there any sign of pots or anything that might carry icky old hearts or anything like that?
You move around the wall, sort of like looking at it, and as you're looking, you find that there are a few sort of small alcoves set in the wall, and there are a number of these clay pots with wax stoppers on them, about 4 in total.
Like, let's break all these pots before we go any further.
I hand her my hand axe. Go ahead.
She's going to take the hand axe and start whacking at the pots.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to drag the body onto the floor.
One at a time.
That's fine. You shatter these pots, and various preserved organs topple out, which you can stamp on if you wish, along with a leaking of, again, this pungent, spicy preservative fluid.
No, she smushes all the lucky old organs.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Somehow Cassie gets all the gross jobs this time. No.
You may wish to have a look at that mask. Meanwhile, I want to look at the swords
Yes.
that are hopefully uncovered by the removal of this body.
Okay, yep, you take out these 2 bronze swords. They're quite finely manufactured, unlike a lot of the other weapons you've seen. And you can see they have these strange characters sort of forged into the blades.
I will, I'll do the usual testing the weight, swinging it about, kind of.
They appear to be extremely finely weighted, and as you swing them about, there's like a
Oh yeah. Cassie wants to do a lore roll on the mask.
Yeah, no
First.
problems. Make a lore roll.
Which came out of 2.
Okay, you're not entirely sure, but given what you found previously, based on the fact you think that demonic statue may have been
And maybe drinking the blood.
Yeah. As you look at it, you know that certain of these sort of like these primitive societies, they believe that by making themselves like look like their guardian spirit or their deity, but like wearing a mask, they would like be imbued with some of the characteristics of their deity that would like win their god's favor effectively. So you think it's like a ceremonial like battle mask to basically say like, I am this deity's like representative in the world, I take on his power, sort of thing.
Because one of you fighters, maybe this would give you some benefit, I don't know. But then who knows what deity you'd be representing.
Don't put it on.
I'm sorry, what?
Go for it.
Don't put it on.
Oh.
I'm not going to.
I imagine at this point.
Not to.
I imagine at this point, Hargo's like, "Oh, if you want to put the mask on," and Ember's just like,
Cassie's like, she's barely able to stand. She doesn't want to take any chances.
Well, in that case, I'm going to just. I have this little pile of loot I've been stripping off them. I have a large sack. I'm going to throw it in that, and I think we've.
Cassie would like to examine the swords.
We should perhaps get out of here first. I think we've done as well as we can do in here, and we've certainly suffered enough losses. Let's take the whole lot back to town and go over it there.
Okay, but let's destroy this altar first.
The what?
The altar, the blood.
Yes.
Okay, as you're looking at the swords, as you're proposing this, you see that perhaps due to the influence of the blood, you can actually read the sigils that are sort of forged into these swords. You can see they appear to be the names of the swords. One of them has the name Blood Drinker forged into it. The other has the name Bone Breaker forged into it.
Awesome.
I'm going to take a crowbar to the altar.
Yeah, absolutely fine. You can smash the altar. It's just a fairly poor sort of stone, obviously hewn locally. You smash it into chunks, and then those chunks into smaller chunks, etc.
Cassie would like to ask if anybody minds if she takes one of the swords.
As I said, let us get it all back to town, and then we can examine the lot. Let's put it up there, right?
Yeah, but if they're more powerful.
Let's get back to town.
All right, let's go.
We've got a couple of nights before we get back anyway. Examine them around a fire.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay. Let's get going. I agree. Let's get out of here.
Okay, so
Right.
are you guys backtracking and heading out of the barrow?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You backtrack and
path.
make your way out. Now, since we're getting to the end, I'm going to basically sort of montage over your journey back to Fort Endeavour. You're sort of following the path you've already taken, so that's not too difficult. You said you wanted to look at the swords, Cassandra, as you were sort of like travelling.
Yes.
What is it you're looking for in particular?
She wants to examine to see if she can tell if they have any magic, what it is, with her lore ability.
Okay, make me a single lore roll for the two of them.
I rolled a 2.
Okay, it's possible they have some sort of magic in them. If they do, it's probably very minor, or the names may just be ceremonial. You're not sure.
Okay. But they are really well built, really nice swords.
Yeah, they're literally like, aside from the demon mask, they're like the finest sort of workmanship weapons that you've found.
Not to mention they were featured on that carving, so they were given.
Right.
Indeed.
I don't suppose any of us could dual wield them.
Not really, they're a little big for that. Although if you've got someone with very high strength, they might be able to give it a good go.
Well, I have an 18 strength.
In which case, you probably could.
I can't see a lot of magic in these as we're walking along or on our way back, but I think they're extremely well made. Perhaps you could use them. Looking at.
So yeah, I'll take both of them.
Okay, so
Glad to see what they can do.
as you guys get back to Fort Endeavour, you have obviously the gold pieces worth of equipment. I've told you that you can exchange for like gold pieces to buy more equipment. In terms of stuff that stands out as like actual treasure rather than just like gold pieces worth of stuff, you obviously have the demon mask and the 2 swords which Hargar has claimed.
Well, I'm not claiming the mask.
No,
One of the
it's
others
basically
is
down to
the
you
mask.
guys. You could sell it, or one of you can keep it. It's up to you guys.
I'll leave
I
it.
don't know what that is, and everything
I
we've
would-
just experienced is bad.
I would favor selling it. We have the 2 rubies too, don't we?
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, or they're just part of the general treasure, probably. Whatever all the.
Okay, so you sell the Demon Mask. The Demon Mask is worth 200 gold pieces, so you can add that to your GP total. So I'll leave it to whichever of you's been like recording your treasure to say how much GP you've got altogether and like divvy that up.
Do you want total for the party?
Yeah, you may as well go for a total for the party, and then you can work out how you're going to split it.
Okay, so by my reckoning, it was 100 plus 1 plus 25, which is 126, plus 109, which is 225, 235, sorry, plus 300 at the end. So that's 535, plus we get the gems, the light gems you said were 100 each?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So 735, plus 125 in assorted little knickknacks. So that's 860.
Okay.
That's in total. That's the whole.
Plus 21 from Dane's corpse.
Oh yeah, we have 2 corpses.
Oh no! I was totaling every. Well, they would have the coins you would have had. You started with. That would be added to the pile.
Okay, so rounding that up, I'm going to say if you divide that equally between the 3 survivors, you will each effectively have 300 gold pieces.
Okay.
Which obviously you
lost
can
their
buy,
lives and they get nothing.
which
Of course,
obviously
dead
you
people
can
don't
buy
need it.
equipment with, and whatever you see fit. Now, in terms of XP, the total amount of XP you will have gained, which is going to be split between all 5 of you, since obviously Dane and Graf did participate in this and they could put that XP towards their next characters. You will have got a grand total of 2,000 XP altogether, which means you've got 400 each,
400 each.
effectively.
Yeah.
So no levels yet.
Nope. However, you are considerably richer, but obviously the cost has been the lives of the unfortunate Graf and Dane. And as you, the 3 survivors of the Barrow Mound of Fangar, head back into Fort Endeavour and you start selling your wares off, etc., people are celebrating you returning. They're asking you your tales about what happened. There's a great deal of excitement and sort of almost ceremony that surrounds your return, since despite the fact you've lost 2 people, you are one of the first adventuring parties to actually return with stuff that you've
So I'm going to give them some details, and then I'm going to make them buy me drinks for the rest. And I'm also going to be a little vague on where things were, because I don't want to.
Oh, yes, very much so.
In case I want to go back.
I'll make an effort to blend into the crowd and walk away.
Okay, that is
Cassandra
absolutely fine.
Cassandra will not say too terribly much at first, but she's going to come up with a, with quite the tale of their story, but she's definitely going to leave out details like where anything is or how to find it or any of that. She's going to talk mostly about the grandiose fight and the bravery and the heroism of her comrades, and probably do it in the bar with a hat out for tips.
Okay, at
I'll
this
probably
point,
exaggerate the dangers too.
At this
Oh,
point,
absolutely.
as one last thing before we round off, I'm going to give you the option that if you wish, you can, as this session draws to a close, your character can go carousing, which basically means you're spending your cash, you're celebrating, etc. And because this is the first time we've done this, I'm going to explain how the rules to that work. Effectively, you spend 1d6 times 100 gold pieces on various carousing. If the result you get means you would have to spend more than you've got, you will end up owing money to someone. Once you've done that, you will get XP from doing this. Once you've done that, you make a save. If you fail that, there's a table of potential consequences here. So it could be like, you get drunk and you end up face down on a table in a dwarven bar somewhere or something like that. Now, you don't have to do that. That's entirely up to you guys.
So as I understand the rules, the upside is you get some XP.
Yep.
And the downside is you could owe somebody money, and you could have a further complication on top of that.
Well, basically, since you guys have effectively got sort of like, what was it, 300 gold pieces each? But basically,
Yes.
if you rolled above a 3, you'd end up owing, on a d6, you'd end up owing money. Otherwise, you'd be basically trading gold pieces in for XP. Is how it
We
works.
already got XP for those gold pieces,
yes,
so
I
you
think-
can double dip.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's a good deal. First of
I don't
all.
think Cassandra's feels rich enough to go carousing yet.
Yeah, Harker's goal is to become rich, not to spend it as he goes.
That's absolutely fine. It's there as an option. You do not have to take it. I'm assuming.
I mean, I could see if I had 1,000 gold pieces, it might be worth it.
I'm assuming
Yeah,
Ember's
it
not
looks
going to
like more
take it
than
because you're sort of
600.
heading into the crowd and heading off with the sad music like Ed Norton in The Incredible Hulk.
That's it, mate. Yeah, just walk away.
Okay, so as you walk away, Cassandra, you're telling tales of what happened. Hargar, you're like counting your loot and sort of working out how much richer you've become
Getting free drinks.
and getting free drinks bought for you.
Yes, I think Cassandra's getting free drinks too. Like I said, she put out a hat.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. And that is where we are going to draw a close to the session. Obviously, I'm happy to chat for a while afterwards. Thank you very much to all of you for playing, especially to Ian and Sean for bearing with us after their character deaths. I hope you guys will be happy to gen up new characters and jump back into the game.
I mean, I'm almost done genning a new character, if that's okay.
Oh, good luck. Good luck. Nice one. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Okay.
You might make us fair.
So, to anyone who's watching this in the future when I've uploaded it, thank you very much for watching. This has been the first session of the Undying Lands. Thank you to my wonderful players. Hopefully we'll have many more sessions with perhaps some of these recurring adventurers, maybe different ones in the future. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.